Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be talking about youth culture and creative sessions. And tonight, do not miss Afrexim Fest, a festival of youth culture and creative sessions tonight. Don't miss it. Welcome back, welcome back. I hope you had a nice lunch. Okay, we're going to go straight into a few sessions now, and the first one after lunch session is on the transformative power of sports. Lessons from legends, fireside conversation. The moderator for this panel, it's an excellent panel. The moderator, please give a warm round of applause to the director of the Leading Light Initiative and the founder, Ms. Vivian Onano.
Your Excellencies, is it on? Okay. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you. My name is Vivian Onano. I'm the founding director of Leading Light Initiative, and I'll be your moderator for the session on transformative power of sports, lessons from the legends. You're going to hear from these incredible men and women who walk the talk when it comes to using the power of sports to drive economic growth and also create meaningful opportunities for young people to thrive. But before I bring them on stage, I would like you to please put your hands together for a big round of applause for His Excellency Professor Benedict Rama and the team at Afreximbank for putting this annual meeting together in this beautiful city of Nassau in the Bahamas. So please welcome on stage my distinguished panelists. I would like to welcome His Excellency Rick Alexander Fox, actor, NBA legend, CEO of Patana Global, and Ambassador at Large of the Bahamas. Please put your hands together for Ms. Claire Akamanzi, Chief Executive Officer, NBA Africa. Next, please welcome on stage Mr. Amadou Galofal, President of the Basketball Africa League. Last but not least, please put your hands together for Ms. Tonique Williams-Darling, Olympic and world champion 400 meters track and field. We have the real legends right here. So we'll go right into it. And my first question will go to Claire. First and foremost, I'd like to congratulate you for your recent appointment as the CEO of NBA Africa, the first female to lead. But
thank you.
Thank you. But you're not new to the sports industry. In your previous heart, you worked with different sports entities in soccer, basketball, and many others. So my question to you, what are some of the structural, transformational changes that we need to implement to ensure that we fully harness the potential in the sports industry in Kenya? Paint a picture for us. What are we doing right? Where are the gaps? Where do we need to put our investments? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vivian, and good afternoon, everyone. I hope there's some people here following the NBA Finals. Anybody here? Yeah. Great. So to your question, Vivian, what are some of the structural transformational, agenda items that we need to think about when we talk about sports. What we've seen that we need to emphasize is that actually sports is an economic development opportunity for Africa. And more so than we've seen in the past, we need to invest in sports, not just as a way to develop talent, which is very important, but also as a way to actually create jobs, drive productivity of our youth, and drive economic development in our countries. Now, the things that need to be done to get there, as we've seen, is one, there needs to be a policy shift on how we see sports. We need to see sports as an economic imperative. We need to see sports as a business. We need to see sports as an opportunity, not only as a recreation, which has been the case. So the first thing is really seeing and giving sports the place of prioritization. So today we want to see more ministers of finance and planning that are actually developing opportunities and priorities to really see sports at the center of that, because sports can actually really drive economic development. The second thing is building facilities. We've seen on the continent, there are few countries that actually have the standard facilities like arenas or even basketball courts that can really help to develop the sports on the continent. So building facilities, we have countries like Senegal, Egypt, South Africa, Rwanda, that host the BAL games, the Basketball Africa League games, because they have the opportunity and they have the arenas to do that. The third one is looking at sports as part of the ecosystem for economic development. In order to make sports thrive in a country, there needs to be an ecosystem comprehensive approach. One, visas, because we've been talking about trade the whole week. Trade is important for the continent, trade is important. Sports is a tradable service. When you host a tournament in a country, people fly in to buy the service of what sports entertainment gives them. So we need to look at sports as a trade, sports as a business, and we need to build the ecosystems from visas to hotels, to aviation, transportation, to marketing professionals, to etc. All that ecosystem needs to be part of the story. The last thing is talent, because without talent, there's no sports. So really developing the talent, building academies, building training facilities, really making sure that Africa and the talent that Africa already has. I think what we've seen is, if you talk about Africa's excellence, if we talk about Africa's youth on the global stage, including Global Africa, sports is one place where you see Africa's excellence. You see Africans excelling, whether it's football or basketball, etc. So continuing to develop that talent will be the backbone of this sports ecosystem and economy that we're building.
Thank you so much, Claire, and thank you so much for reinforcing. We need to look at sports as an economic opportunity, as a trade, as business, and also remember that sport is a tradable service. Mm-hmm. I think that brings me to Mr. Fall Amadou. There are very few people who are as bold as you are. Launching a league in the middle of COVID. Nobody does that. Everybody was closing their business. So I don't know what was going on in your head at that point. So we'd like to know that. So you launched the Basketball Africa League 4 years ago. Congratulations on your recent Basketball Africa League Season 4 tournament. That was really successful. We followed the games from Dakar, South Africa, Cairo, and to the finals in Rwanda. So how has that journey been? And what do the numbers look like, impact-wise? And also, can you please share with us more, do you have mentorship and support programs for African youth that you have put in place with the Basketball Africa League, and how are partners like Afreximbank helping to support that vision? I know that's a lot of questions in one.
No, thank you, and good afternoon, and great to be here. Look, in terms of launching the league in the middle of the pandemic, I just want to remind that the BAL, a partnership between the NBA and FIBA, is the culmination of many decades of work and engagement that the NBA has had on the African continent. I said this, when we decided to open our office in 2010 in South Africa, we didn't say, let's start with a professional league. So we took a lot of time to really lay out the foundation, to focus on the basic, to make sure that we made the game accessible for young boys and girls who had a passion for the game and wanted to play the game. We build relationships. We engage with governments, federations, all stakeholders, private and public partners, the people that are like-minded, who saw an opportunity to use basketball as a tool to really empower youth, build communities, And ultimately, when we decided to launch the league, to Claire's point, it was now about unleashing this economic growth engine. All the things that Claire talked about that sport has the power to do, we are maximizing on that on the African continent, using the incredible talent we have. But it was a culmination of many decades of work. And what gave us confidence was that we are relying on the NBA's best-in-class expertise in terms of operating and commercializing a professional sports league. And also, we found during that time, as we look at where was the best place to do this, and we were inspired by the NBA just concluding the season that year with a complete bubble in Disney's campus in Orlando, Florida. In Rwanda, we found a country that managed the pandemic incredibly well. So this is, really some of the things that gave us confidence to really say that we could do this. And I think it was a great feeling to be able to do that in Africa using African talent, but broadcasting these games in 215 countries around the world. In terms of where the league is, we just finished our fourth season. We crowned our fourth champion in Petro Atletico de Luanda, going from a complete bubble in 2021 to now really finishing a fourth season with record crowds. 120,000 fans came to our arenas in Pretoria, in Cairo, in Dakar, and then in Kigali. We had 13 sold out games. We are increasing the number of partners that we're bringing on board. Our distribution footprint continues to really grow. 1.6 million live viewers in our YouTube channel during the season. And in terms of mentorship, we are really focused on making sure that this league is bigger than basketball. We are looking to empower young people. We are looking to generate jobs. When we talk about building the entire ecosystem, it's about really creating employment for young people. Our partnership with Afreximbank in the fourth season, and we're looking forward to continuing for many, many years to come, allowed us, for example, through our BAL Advanced program, to really open the doors for young people in careers in the sports industry. We are training. We are also launching mentorship programs, for example, with 6 young ladies from Senegal, Egypt, and Rwanda, I think, were beneficiaries of mentorship programs in the US, where they went to spend time with leading ladies in really high-level positions in different sports industries, in the NBA, obviously, and including also at the NBA Players Association. We sent last year 28 young coaches from 17 countries across Africa to intern with NBA teams during the Summer League in Las Vegas. We are just scratching the surface because we have huge ambitions with this league, but what we've seen to date continue to motivate and continue to give us energy and continue to give us confidence that we can build one of the best professional basketball leagues in the world in years to come with the BAL.
Thank you so much, Mr. Fall. So I'll come to you, Your Excellency, Mr. Fawkes. You've heard from Claire talking about sports should be looked at as an economic opportunity, create jobs, create partnerships, and you've heard from Mr. Fall what they've been able to achieve with Basketball Africa League in the past 4 years. Sorry. So as a former NBA player and NBA legend, and you've moved on to do incredible work as an actor, also right now in business, what you're doing with sustainable living, creating opportunities for young people here in the Caribbean. So what are some of the key lessons that you learned as an NBA basketball player, and how did they help shape your life post the league?
Thank you for the question, and good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here, honored to be on the stage with my esteemed colleagues here. Especially excited to see you, my dear. Welcome to the Bahamas. I think that's what I'm supposed to say as an ambassador of our country here. It's an honor to have you here. It's a pleasure to see you on our shores, and I hope that the weather gets a little better in the coming days so that you can leave with some amazing memories of our home and come back. In the area of my life and journey as an athlete, a former NBA player, I'll tell you a simple journey of the impact of trade as well as the impact of economic value to one individual, which was myself, but the impact that that's carried forward for not only myself, but others that have followed behind me. I wasn't the first individual that was blessed with the idea that I could grow up on a small island like ours of 250,000 people back in 1984. And think that I could somehow move on to the United States, get a scholarship to the University of North Carolina, go on to be drafted into the NBA and provide a living for myself and my family. That was Michael Thompson. So Michael Thompson, if you've heard that name, and I think you know that name well, Michael Thompson was a neighbor of mine, a Bahamian, the first to become drafted #1 in the NBA back in 1976. And he went on to have a stellar career, end up playing for the Los Angeles Lakers, winning NBA championships. So the power of sport in example and mentorship, it was no better moment than as a 14-year-old kid that I got a chance to meet Michael Thompson in person here at home. And it was his journey that empowered my belief that I too could go on this path to make sport not only a powerful tool for myself and growing as an individual, but also a powerful tool to empower my economic place in society. Now, when we talk about the value of lessons that I've learned that regardless of where I am in the world, I'm always stronger and better suited for success when I surround myself with other excellent-minded, focused, dedicated, disciplined people. And so this is, in my case, foundationally, I grew up in the church here at home. So I was rooted in a foundation of faith, and then I was raised by a village, a community. We gained our independence back in 1973. That was done at the hands of very forth-thinking and courageous men in this country. And so seeing that as a young man, a black man in this country, growing up, I did not for 1 second believe that a black man could not walk in a room with power and dignity and strength. And so when you grow up in a country like this, and you have those leaderships and those leadership examples around you every day, stepping onto a basketball court becomes really easy. Stepping into a boardroom becomes even easier. I have to pay homage to my father. My father was an entrepreneur and a businessman in this country. He created ice. Ice in an island environment of heat. So talk about a challenge, right? But he was a man that suited up, showed up every day with a discipline and an approach to life, but he also served his community. So the only lesson I will tell you that I leave my life with, whether I'm on a basketball court or in the boardroom or leading a company or on the set of a movie or a TV show, is that I'm constantly looking to be in service to the people around me to make their journey that much easier, and then to live a purpose that's serving something greater than myself. The current job I have now is the CEO and founder of Partana. We're a carbon-negative building materials company that's looking to take Portland cement, a 200-year-old material, a binder that creates concrete that develops our world. It's not going anywhere. It's having a 200-year-old birthday this year. But I'm challenged with my team to replace cement, a destructive, damaging material that has polluted our planet, and bringing to our shores here in the Bahamas the constant threat of climate becoming refugees. That's how I came home the last 2 years. We had a Hurricane Dorian. In that moment, I realized that spending a couple dollars was not going to be enough. I needed to be in bigger service to my own family, to our community, to our country, in hopes that we could survive this next journey that we're on here of fighting this climate situation. So service to a greater purpose is my journey today. It was my journey when I served Shaq and Kobe and the Los Angeles Lakers. And so those moments of athleticism built me, but the foundation under all of that was built right here on this island. And it's the greatest gift I was given, was the support of a family and leadership in a community that raised me to be foundationally strong.
Wow, fantastic. Thank you, Your Excellency. And thank you also for reminding us that it takes a village to raise a child. And you've had incredible mentors who have really shaped your life from a young person to being an icon that you are today. So thank you for sharing that with us. But I have one more other question for you. So what are some of the initiatives of impact that you have here in the Bahamas, apart from the work that you're doing through your company, but to empower young people?
Yeah, economic development is obviously always on the forefront of our country's mind, but at the same time, survival is key. So right now, we are, through this company, Partana, are looking to develop housing, hurricane-proof resistant housing. We've done a PPP with the government of the Bahamas, the leadership of the Prime Minister, who has been amazing in seeking innovation from our shores to the world, as opposed to waiting to the world to show up for us to save us. We're going to the world with dignity, and that is by creating solutions for ourselves, which we've been able to do. We've built the first carbon negative home here in the country, and we're going to build another 1,000 in the coming years here. And that's an example of protecting your environment and protecting yourself, right? That'll generate job creation for young men and women in our country to participate in this mission. And then on top of that, we've now unlocked for them some educational growth through a partnership with the University of the Bahamas and Kaust University out of the Middle East to explore through AI the improvement of climate solutions through technology.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. I'll come to you, Ms. Tonique. As a world champion, I'm a Kenyan and I still can't run, so that's another conversation. As a world champion, did you have a sporting mentor, and in what ways did they channel your energies or change your outlook to advance your career?
All right, good afternoon. I would also like to extend my wishes to you and say welcome to the Bahamas. I hope that your conference is going very well. It's a pleasure to be here to talk about my journey in track and field and some of the mentors that were in my life. Like Rick, I remember seeing one of my native Bahamians in '96 win the first medal in track and field for the Bahamas. That was Frank Rutherford. And so he won a bronze medal in the '96 Olympics. And in 2004, I would have been the first Bahamian to win the first individual gold medal for the Bahamas. But that moment with Frank Rutherford was what really piqued my interest in track and field. And so he wasn't a mentor at that point in time, but he was a Bahamian that I could identify with who was doing something just phenomenal on the world stage. And I don't know if when you came through the airport, you saw all those pictures along the wall, but that's all of our Bahamian heroes and persons that would have really led the way and put Bahamas on the map, as we say, in track and field in particular, because we've had so many from such a small country. And so it's really been, we've really been the persons that have led the way in terms of track and field, but also in terms of national pride and development. And so it's been an honor to be on that journey, but I did have some mentors that were there for me along the way. I remember in primary school, I had a mentor by the name of Keith Carey, and he was somebody that really instilled commitment and hard work in me. And so those were the things that actually still propel me as an individual and as a career person. And then I remember as I was on my pre-collegiate journey, I would have had my next Bahamian mentor, Mr. Sidney Cartwright, and he really helped me to see track beyond recreational. It's just a hobby. It's just something you do. You know, track and field gave me the opportunity to get a higher education. As somebody that came from a single-parent family home and knowing some financial challenges that would be obstacles, college was not something that was really in my radar. And so track and field really opened up that possibility. And then later on in life, on my professional journey, I was with an American coach, Mr. Steve Riddick, and he helped me to see even beyond, you know, just being a professional athlete and what you can do in terms of winning medals, but making it a career. For a long time, we did not see sports as an avenue for financial gain and what it really means in terms of being another industry. And so that helped to change the way that I saw athletics, making it a career. And since then, I've been able to leverage it in so many ways. I've been able to be a brand ambassador for companies like Nike, locally here with BTC. I've been able to go on and lead the way in terms of putting the Bahamas on the map in terms of hosting global events like the World Athletic Relays, most of you may have heard about, and been in that capacity as a deputy director. And so sports has opened up so many doors. And since then, I've also been able to be a mentor to other athletes. I've helped other athletes from the Bahamas who did not see a possibility of going to college. I've helped to send them off to college. I also saw a young lady, one of my star athletes. She was on the first ever Bahamians 4x4 team, something that we had never accomplished before. And so with the 400 being very dear to my heart, being able to have one athlete on that team as a 4x4 runner, you know, it meant so much to me to be able to give that back to my country. And then finally, I had another athlete who is the first Bahamian ever to be in World Wrestling. And so it's not track and field, but she's excelling on a global stage. And so just being able to use what I've learned through my journey as an athlete and what my mentors were able to instill in me, I was also able to pass that on. And I'm sure that my athletes would always so be able to do the same thing.
Thank you so much. I'm glad that there are people who mentored and supported you, and now you're paying it forward too in a major, major way. So thank you so much for the work that you continue to do in your capacity. Before we round up, I'll come back to you, Claire. How can you use sports to forge closer linkages between Africa and CARICOM countries to build momentum and blueprint for a global Africa?
How can we build connections between Africa and the Caribbean, or the CARICOM countries? I'd think about maybe 3 or 4 ways. One of them is to really host games that brings 2 communities together from the Caribbean and from Africa. Every year, as you heard from Amadou, we have seasons of the Basketball Africa League. We'd like you to come and watch those games on the African continent. We could also organize games. You know, when we came here the first day, the Prime Minister of Barbados and the President of Guyana met us and challenged us, you know, to think about hosting a basketball team from the Caribbean in Africa. And maybe in the future, think about having a Caribbean team that plays in the Basketball Africa League. That was a challenge they put before us. So I think the ambition is there. I think the support is there. Now Amadou has to do the work to make it happen. But I think exchanging, you know, games, whether it's, you know, tournaments, clinics, training, is one way that we can actually bring 2 communities together. The second one is through sharing of content. This year we tried something. We broadcast the finals of the Basketball Africa League in Brazil. And we had 67,000 people watch the finals of the Basketball Africa League in Brazil. I think that shows you that the connection is there and the appetite is there. Let's just bring the content and let's share the content together. The third one is merchandise. If you look at some of the merchandise that we have on the continent, including for the BAL, very beautiful merchandise. So being able to access some of this merchandise, you know, here on the Caribbean islands, to be able to, you know, experience the very cool African-themed merchandise that we have, and being able to access that as well. The last one also, I think we can exchange sports with other sectors of the creative economy. When you have a game on the continent, it's very much filled with a lot of entertainment. You see music, halfway shows, fashion shows. When you have a week of the Basketball Africa League, for example, you have a lot of, you know, creative industries that come together. Why not have a musician from the Caribbean perform at the halftime in Africa? That's one example of something that we can do together. Why not bring fashion from Africa to the Caribbean that can actually, you know, interlink between sports and creative economy? So I think there's so many ways we can bring the 2 communities together. I think what we've seen this week is that the Caribbean countries, the African countries are ready to connect. Let's just create the platforms to make that happen.
Thank you so much, Claire. We're running out of time, so 30 seconds each. Next question. What is the one thing that you're going to do or continue to do better to ensure that we attract more investments in sports in global Africa? 30 seconds each. We'll start with Tonique, please.
One of the things that is very passionate for me is to be able to see us develop more athletic talent. We have at every single Olympic since '96, I would have mentioned, had someone that has won a medal, gold, silver, or bronze, but it's always just one. I would like to see the Bahamas be able to put together a team where we can have many gold medalists in a single Olympic Games. And so for me, I'm very passionate about the youth. And so for me, going forward, I would really like to see how we can develop a strong recruiting program. We are a country of many islands, and there is so much talent everywhere in the Bahamas. And sometimes the focus is just here because of resources. And so my passion is to see how we can ensure that we're reaching Bahamian talent throughout the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
Thank you. Your Excellency, please.
My commitment is to continue to be an example of mentorship for the next generation. Actual presence on the ground is something that I take great pride in. I was fortunate enough to be in Kigali a couple of months ago and experience NBA level basketball in Africa. Now, I know the talent exists already in the league, but I'm excited for where it's going to go because I know what's there already. I've seen it with my own eyes. But then coming from the world of Hollywood and entertainment, I think there's no better way to break down barriers than to educate through storytelling. And as you mentioned before, I think you continue to tell a stronger message when you have the authenticity of having experienced that message for yourself. And so I encourage all of you to not only wait for Africa to visit us again, but to go and visit Africa.
Thank you. Claire?
Sports is a business. Sports is an economic priority. My goal is to keep making that point and demonstrating how we can achieve that.
Thank you. Amadou?
We have the perfect platform in the Basketball Africa League to be that place where converge, everything that we've talked about here. This interconnection, the link we're building between the Caribbean and Africa, and within Africa, the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement area. For example, we think that our league, because we move people, goods and services, is a perfect platform to facilitate that. Even this interaction we're talking about between the Caribbean and Africa, thanks to Afreximbank, and we're looking to build on the partnerships that we had this season for to go to take it to in future years. The things that Claire talked about, how do we create opportunities to interact, to bring events here, take events there. We fuse sports, music, and fashion, the entire creative industry together. That's the goal of the Basketball Africa League. So I think we are the perfect platform to really bring it all together. So we are inviting all of you to join us in one of our African cities where we will host the season 5, whether it's in Pretoria, in Kigali, or Dakar, or Cairo, or another great African city.
Thank you.
You heard it from the legends themselves. You can hear the transformative power of sports. As Claire says, sports is a business. Sports has the power to drive our economies. They're already creating jobs in their industry. So please, let's continue to invest in the sports industry. Please put your hands together and give a huge round of applause to my distinguished panelists, His Excellency Rick Alex Fox, Mr. Nick Williams-Darling, Ms. Claire Akamanzi, and Mr. Amadou Gallo-Fall. Thank you so much.
And moderator Vivian Onano, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, thank you to that panel. I want to show you something, actually, before I begin. I want to acknowledge someone. If I could ask him to please rise and be acknowledged, please. The President of Suriname is here. His Excellency Chan Santoki is here. The President of Suriname, thank you very much, sir, for being with us. Your Excellency, I want to show you something. You're probably wondering why has Mark got a T-shirt underneath his arm? Maybe is he sweating? Does he want to change his shirt? No. This is no ordinary T-shirt. This T-shirt was made in Benin Republic at a special economic zone. Now, I don't know if you know about Benin. Benin is one of the #1 cotton producers, growers in the world. And for decades, for years, this country has exported raw cotton and gotten not enough value from its cotton. That's changed from the special economic zone in Glo Jigbe Industrial Park in Benin. Now, if you go there, it's a sight to behold. And I strongly recommend anyone that's in Benin to go and see the special economic zone. There's almost what feels like a mile of people at looms producing cotton reels, and now manufacturing t-shirts, manufacturing towels, adding value. Isn't that what we want? Isn't that what we want? Now, this t-shirt, I'm going to give to you, Your Excellency. This is your t-shirt. There you go. Thank you very much. Round of applause, please. Now that was a natural segue to our first deal after lunch, which is a deal between Afreximbank, FEDA, Arise IPP, and also joined by AFC and Aquitan as the equity shareholders in Arise IIP, which I mentioned. So for that, I'm going to call for this deal, to sign this deal. Marlene Ngoyi is the CEO of FEDA. Please join us, Marlene. Gagan Gupta, my brother Gagan, the CEO of Arise IIP. Oluronti Doherty, our own Oluronti Doherty, Director, Export Development for Afreximbank. Yes, so there will be 3 people signing, I believe, so we need a third chair. Can I get I think I need a third chair, don't I, my lawyers? Joseph? If there are 3 people signing, we need 3 chairs, I think. And then to witness, please welcome Samaila Zubairo, CEO of Africa Finance Corporation. Africa Finance Corporation, of course, is one of the very important components in this. Like Afreximbank, they are financing and supporting, arranging the financing and support of Arise IIP. So, Samaila, where are you? There you are. Come and witness this, Samaila. Now, Madam Kanayo, Awani, are you in the room? There you are. Always wear red. It helps me to identify you. Give a round of applause. Kanayo Awani, please. Okay, as the deal is signed, go ahead. I'm going to tell them what exactly we're talking about here. This is Afreximbank and FEDA joins AFC and Aquitain as equity shareholders in Arise IIP. Afreximbank has supported Arise for over 12 years and now transitions from not only being a debt provider to also being an equity shareholder in the company. It demonstrates the bank's commitment to the partnership, which has transformed and continues to transform Africa from largely being a supplier of raw commodities in the international market to one that supplies manufactured industrialized goods. Is it signed? Congratulations. Congratulations to Afreximbank, FEDA, AFC, and Arise IIP. It's family photo time. Yes, why not? With the beautiful branding here. And maybe President, do you want to join us? Do you want to join us for this photo? Come and join us for this photo. President Orama. Let's assemble us all here. Thank you very much. That's the first deal after lunch. It's all about value addition. Value addition. Okay, my next deal, deal number 6, is a memorandum of understanding between Afreximbank and Nigeria's Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment. It's known by its acronym FMITI, the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment. This is an MOU between the both parties. The parties signing on stage. Please welcome Her Excellency Doris Uzoka Anite, who is the Honorable Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment for the great nation of Nigeria. Oluronti Doherty, you are signing on behalf of Afreximbank. Oluronti, you are signing on behalf of Afreximbank. As the two of you meet, three Nigerian powerhouse ladies here. Wonderful. Okay, we have some documents for you. Okay, and we've got our witnesses. I also see our wonderful governor, our executive governor from Bielsa, sir. Please come and join us. We need you as a witness. You know when I see you, I have to call you now. Thank you, Your Excellency. Okay, so as they sign this MOU, let me tell you what it is. Okay, wonderful. Okay, I can go on. The MOU will cover the following areas. Please go ahead and put your John Hancocks on the document. The establishment of up to a $3 billion Nigeria industrialization financing facility for an industrial park, special economic zones, agro-processing zones, and other light manufacturing. I said $3 billion. You just sat down there. You must be rich. Technical and advisory support in the Diaspora Investment Fund framework, expansion of the Afreximbank Arise IIP FMITI partnership, statewide investment projects in technical viability, a development of a healthcare value chain, development of an automotive sector, and development of the compressed natural gas, or CNG as it's called, value chain to better enable the automotive and transport sectors in Nigeria. The MOU is signed, but from that list, the work has just begun. Congratulations. Congratulations. One last one before we get back to the program, I believe. This is deal number 7. Now, this is a partnership memorandum of understanding. I should just say MOU. MOU with East African Development Bank and Afreximbank. East African Development Bank and Afreximbank. The parties signing on stage are, for Afreximbank, the Executive Vice President, Global Trade Bank of Afreximbank. Oh, we're taking some photos first. Let me pause for a second. Yes, we have one more thing to sign, and this will involve, I believe, the governor of Bielsa State. No, the minister, or the Minister of Trade and Investment. Okay, the Minister of Trade and Investment. I haven't been given the information about this, so because I'm a professional, I'm just going to wing it. Right? Okay. So, and what I'm going to do is, I'm actually going to ask the parties to join. I'm going to ask my colleague Oluronti Doherty to explain to us, Oluronti, and I'm going to pull her away from you, Gagan. Explain to us, this is a very significant and important document we're signing here. What are we about to see?
Thank you, Mark. So this document we're signing here signifies the partnership between the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, Arise IIP, and Afreximbank to revamp the cotton, apparel, and textile value chain in Nigeria. And this seeks to create jobs in the value of about 20,000 for the country and attract investments at the moment estimated at about over $2 billion. And this is going to cut across the cotton belt in Nigeria and also create a lot of jobs and turn around what we know as Nigeria's core strength in terms of cotton and textile production, which used to be the pride of the country in the 80s and 90s. So we are bringing it back and working together to get that done.
That was better than me. I couldn't have said that myself. Congratulations. Thank you. This is very, very important. As you know, the federal government of Nigeria is committed to diversifying the economy, not just in words, but in actions. So what you're seeing here is that in action. That's it. It's signed. Congratulations. Okay, congratulations to all parties. We got through that very quickly. Thank you, Your Excellency, for witnessing this. Oh, another photo in the middle, yes. President, do you want to say something? Anything? I have a mic. No? No, hold on. Before you take those chairs, we've got one more signing to take place. Yes, one more signing. The final one before we get back to the program. This is a partnership MOU with East African Development Bank. East African Development Bank. EADB, East African Development Bank, and Afreximbank are signing a partnership. The two co-signers are, of course, our own Kanayo Awani and Miss Vivian Yeda. She was the Director General of the East African Development Bank. Ms. Vivian Yeda, welcome and congratulations on this MOU, the purpose of which is to formalize the collaboration between the parties and explore joint activities that are consistent with their mandates and the objectives of the East African Development Bank and Afreximbank for the facilitation of technical assistance to support trade and investment flows in the East African community. So that's the purpose of it, and it is signed. Congratulations to both parties. The last deal before we get down to business again, partnership MOU between Afreximbank and East African Development Bank. Thank you. Now we'll get back onto the program. We've got much more for you. As I said, coming up, some of the stars of music and screen are coming to join us. So without much ado, let me get back to the program. Okay. Now, we heard the transformative power of sports. Now we're going to move on to building bridges across generations. The role of youth in shaping the next era of what we call global Africa. It's called an intergenerational dialogue on artificial intelligence and the future of work. So without much ado, on building bridges across generations, I'm going to invite the moderator, who's the Executive Director, Erskine Global Communications. Please welcome Anita Erskine.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. A round of applause for the youth of Africa, first of all. You know, gone are the days where perhaps one may say Africa may be the same as the Caribbean, when the elders spoke and the youth were forced to listen. Now I argue that the youth have to speak and the elders have to listen. As long as, like me, you don't know how to take the perfect selfie, it is time for you to sit back and relax, and let those who hold the future of the world that we're trying to create lead the way. Any of you under the age of 25 in this room? Not you, sir. I know you are above 50. Don't do that. But hey, youth is how you feel and not necessarily what your real passport or your real birth certificate says. Wink, wink to all the footballers in the room. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to be having a very quick conversation, as my brother said, building bridges across generations. What does this intergenerational conversation or dialogue, what does it sound like? What does it look like? How do we collectively build this global Africa and ensure we leave no young person behind? To have this conversation, I have the privilege of bringing to the stage, and please give them the wildest, loudest, youthful round of applause, Ms. Chido Cleopatra Impemba, AU Chairperson's Special Envoy on Youth. It's got to be louder than that. Before they kick out all the old people, myself included, please warmly welcome Mr. Gabriel Edgal, Chairman and CEO of Oakwood Green Africa Limited. Miss Crystal Riviere, COO St. Lucia Agency for Youth Economy. And last, definitely not the least, Miss Lamia Milijui, who is the expert in international economic cooperation and development. Now give us the wildest, loudest round of applause as we take our seats and step into the most youthfully vibrant conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, please. Lamia.
Yes.
Sit down.
Okay, I am.
Okay, now let's get down to business. Let me start off with you, Chido. Now, if you don't know who this wonderful young lady is, she is the youngest diplomat in the African Union Chairperson's cabinet. Hold on. She leads on youth affairs and essentially represents the voices of over 870 million young people across 55 countries. So one of the most powerful people in this room, if she says young people, let's eliminate these old people, we are done, me and you. So I bring it to you, my dear sister. Let's talk about opportunities for our youth in building what we're celebrating here, this global Africa. What opportunities are there for the youth of Africa? And if I can also throw in the youth of the Caribbean. Chido.
Thank you for that, my dear sister. Now, when we speak about the opportunities that are available for young people, I just first want to acknowledge the resilience that young people have. Being the African Union Youth Envoy, I've had the privilege of going on listening tours across the continent in the diaspora to listen to young people and what they want has changed for us to achieve Agenda 2063. I've had the privilege to be rooms in private sector. I actually worked in the private sector myself in Zimbabwe before I got into my role as a banker. And the opportunities that are there are for young people to innovate. Yeah. Having said that, also bring it back to the private sector and our public sector as a challenge. In as much as there's opportunity for young people to innovate, there are not so many opportunities for access to funding. There are not so many opportunities for young people to actually fully harness their potential within the space. And there's so much more that we can do in this regard.
Thank you so much, Chido. So, Chido speaks about access, Gabriel, but I want to go back to a beautiful quote that I saw on your website, if you allow me to read very quickly. It says, where many see an Africa underdeveloped and crawling, we as Oakwood see a beautiful continent blessed with the potential to be a unique unicorn in development, of course, in the development of this world, creating opportunities for many generations to thrive. Now, Gabriel, the fourth industrial revolution is scary, it's grand, it's big. A lot of languages, AI, that many of us don't understand. But given that you are at the forefront of pushing the agenda for us to achieve this prosperity, how can we give our young people agency, not only to thrive, but to excel and be global examples of what is possible?
Thank you so much, and that's great. So you went to the website, it's lovely. You did some good research. First, I can't start to say anything without acknowledging the fact that a lot of things that our founding fathers had said, from the Jomo Kenyattas to the Nelson Mandelas to the Marcus Garveys, is finally taking root. Bob Marley sang about it, and he says, how good and how pleasant it would be before God and man to see the unification of all Africans. Let me thank Afreximbank. They said it, they dreamt it, Afreximbank is now implementing it. Thank you very much, Afrexim, and special thanks to my friend and mentor, Professor Orama. You speak about the youth and, AI and giving them the platform. The truth is they are already taking the platform. Look at what music is doing. Music, Afrobeat alone has billions of streaming. The youth, and when you look at Africa and what they have done in fintech, so they already have the platform. The question is, how do we leverage that to sell the message of global Africa? How do we begin to let them use that media? We spoke about Bob Marley, who used song. Fela used music to pass message. So now we should begin to look at the content of the music that they do and begin to shape it towards global Africa to show that the potential of the 2 billion Africans, of which 40% are youth, is powerful. Okay? Education is very important. To be able to use those platforms that they have, even fintech, financial technology. I want to begin to see apps being developed, telling the story the same ways that the stories were told in those days. Jomo Kenyatta said, our children may speak about heroes of the past, but our duty is to make ourselves architects of the future. We have the platforms.
Beautifully said. I wish I had played the instrumental to that song for you and paid you a little extra to perform for us.
We can do it, it's a side gig.
No, sir. It was just a joke. So, Sally, Crystal, sorry, made me lose my train of thought. Crystal, you see, Gabriel talks about how the youth are taking advantage of the tools right in front of them. And I know that specifically, the Solution Agency for Youth Economy intentionally forces or more or less uplifts young people to use their hobbies as entrepreneurial efforts, which is marvelous. How do we blueprint this? How do we multiply this? How do we take this initiative that you have and make it the blueprint for the continent of Africa and the Caribbean?
So one of the questions when you sent me all of these awesome briefing notes to prepare was whether or not young people are playing a pivotal role in politics. And the Youth Economy Agency is an example, the perfect example, of how young people have forced politicians to take them seriously. Because the idea of the youth economy came through campaigning, where Philip J. Pierre, the Honorable Philip J. Pierre of St. Lucia, who was then the leader of the opposition, was faced with, almost forced to hear the voice of the young people saying, what are you going to do for us? And so during the campaign, he said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to give you a youth economy. And so he was campaigning on this idea of a youth economy, and people were like, a youth economy? What are you talking about? You can't win an election on a youth economy, but he did. And now he was forced now to answer that promise, and you can't answer that promise a year before the next elections because you're going to lose. So he went to Parliament, he enacted this idea of a youth economy, and we now have the Youth Economy Agency, where we say we are turning hobbies into entrepreneurship and skills into business. And what do we really mean? We all know that we left school looking for a job, and there aren't enough jobs available anywhere to employ everybody. So you have had a hobby your whole short life, but you've had it. You've been possibly crocheting, and everybody in the community knows that you do great crochet. And then you stop at some point, and you go work for the man. But we're now telling you, you can now build a business on your talent of crocheting, and we are going to fund that idea for you so that you can take that hobby, turn it into a business. Hopefully, if we do it right and we give you training in addition to the financing, because you need training, you need to learn how to manage a business, you need to understand financing. We're going to mentor you as well. And thereafter, we hope that you're going to move along the spectrum from micro to small, medium, eventually large, and also employ other young people into your business so that we build, as a small island developing state, an economy based on the creativity and energy of our youth.
You know, Crystal, you say it so eloquently, and I truly believe in the vision. I see that it's working. But a lot of us in this room know that if we tell our parents we want to convert our hobby for crocheting into a business, my dear, my parents are Ghanaian. They'll say, Esseden. Basically, what? So how do you take the older generation along on this very, very extraordinary journey so that the young people don't have to feel that they are letting their parents down by just converting a hobby into, I don't know, their daily bread?
So I will not be a hypocrite. I have a 16-year-old son, and I am going to encourage him to finish school, go to the highest level. But that doesn't mean that because you are pursuing higher education, that you can't also run a business. Because COVID taught us something. We need to survive. And sometimes the 9-to-5 will shut down, and what you will need to know is how to bake bread to sell it to the people in the neighborhood.
Absolutely.
So we're not telling you to choose one or the other. We're telling you that if you have this, utilize it, and we're here to help you.
Okay, I'm convinced. Lamia, you know, we talk about the AfCFTA, and we know the value of the AfCFTA. We talk about trade, and, you know, we throw all these big languages, and usually for most of us, it goes way above our head. For someone who is dedicated to promoting regional African trade, especially for SMEs, how do you make sure that young people are part of a conversation that is usually quite heavy, too heavy for them to understand, let alone for them to buy into it?
True.
And thank you for the question. And before actually starting to answer the question, allow me to express my deepest gratitude for, I feel really privileged to be here among you, and also in the same time being in such a beautiful place that I felt heartfully that I am really in my home in Africa. Though there is a huge ocean between us, but really people-wise and the level of professionalism and the level of how we were received starting from the airport, from the people, really I feel showered by love and care. So really thank you. It's a privilege to be here. Coming back to the point of young people, how we can engage them into the policy, into AfCFTA and the huge momentum which is happening now on the African level. I was struck by the quote of Madiba, our beloved Nelson Mandela, which is that education is the most powerful weapon to transform and to change nations. And education is not nowadays the classical way of education that is being in schools or universities. Now education is going far beyond. It is about mentorship, about receiving online courses, about having information through the different, maybe free of charge tools. That is a huge opportunity for African young people and also the Caribbean. So you can achieve realistically huge impact on your learning and development without having to pay a lot of money, just having the basic tools of internet connections, etc. So I believe, back to your questions, there are essential tools to engage young people into the policy and into the AfCFTA and the trade and investment. First one, as I mentioned, it is mentorship and coaching and being part of networks. The second point is that giving the exposure and giving the opportunities for African young people to meet and to cooperate and to build trust among themselves. Because actually I look at the African young generations nowadays and I feel they have a huge responsibility on their shoulders. They will be the ones who should work hardly on job creations because in like the next decades, Africa will be like the youngest, and nowadays also we are the youngest continent, but also in terms of the manpower, in terms of people coming to the labor market, Africa will hugely be contributing to the international labor market. So how we are going to absorb all these capacities of young people? It is not only about the public sector, it is about engagement with the private sector, supporting entrepreneurship, giving them international and also regional African exposure. So there are a lot of tools that we should work on nowadays just to make and to ensure that in the future, in the near future, we are having a sound and empowered young people that can take forward and to maybe to work on the bottlenecks that maybe the previous generations didn't manage to solve.
Thank you so much, Lamia. Chido, I want you to whisper to this room. Nobody's paying attention. Are we online? Pause it for a minute. What are the young people saying about us?
Wow. There's a lot. There's a lot. If you may allow me, after I say that, I would just like to add briefly onto the AfCFTA question, but let me start with answering your question. Young people are saying that majority of us is 75%, but we're only seeing 35% in the room. We need more of the market, the share market of the young people. Whatever product, whatever service you're providing is going to the young people. So as a result, we need more of that ratio in the rooms. We need more of that ratio on the decision-making table. We need more on that ratio on the main menu, not just on the table, but on the actual main menu. And I'll give you a specific example. I acknowledge and I'm grateful specifically with the Afreximbank and what they've done, because today is dedicated for youth and creatives, which is a day specifically dedicated for young people. However, what young people have seen is offered in as much as that's done in good intention. On the third day, yes, we say we save the best for last, but at that same time, half of the people are already out of the room. And that's the audience we need. Yes, I'm here to speak to my fellow youth leaders that are in the room, but we also want to speak to the policymakers that are making the decisions, because those decisions they're making for us, because we are the majority. If it's profit, if it's economic development in our countries, that is determined by the market share, and that huge market share is us, the young people. Now, having said that, if you may allow me just briefly to touch onto the AfCFTA.
By all means, go ahead.
Thank you. As you're aware that, the AfCFTA Secretariat is part of the African Union, and we also have His Excellency Wamkele Mene, who's here. And with my office, we actually have a, co-host an AfCFTA Youth Symposium, which happens every year. So we had one last year in Zambia, and that also gave an opportunity for young people to learn more about the AfCFTA. But then within that space, we also had exhibition space for young people to learn more from one another and how they can trade. And one commitment that has been made by the AfCFTA Secretary General is that the next AfCFTA Youth Symposium is going to have deal rooms. Because yes, we're doing the talking, but we also want to be able to make deals and make profits as young people. Secondly, we've actually negotiated for an AfCFTA protocol on youth and women, which was adopted by our head of states just this February at the AU Summit. What that means is in as much as countries trade from country to country, there's also going to be, literally lower tariffs for women and youth to trade across the continent.
A round of applause. And Chido, I'm not going to lie, my heartstrings are being tugged because you talked about we need to be speaking to the policymakers and access. I think Gabriel mentioned it, access. We don't have access to them. Gabriel Bob Marley, I bring you back into the conversation. Where's your hair, by the way? No dreads? Okay, so let's talk about this access that is usually kind of like hovering around, We are always talking about, the Afro Champions Initiative, and if you don't know what that is, it's essentially, it drives Africa's economic integration through the AfCFTA and supports the rise of African economic champions. Where are the young people in this concept of championship? What is the role of the youth, the examples of these champions, these young people who are building apps, these young people who are doing things that many of us don't understand? What is their role in essentially in pushing the concept of Africa's prosperity forward?
Thank you so much. It's interesting that, we have all of these conferences. Very nice, and that's why I like what she said. And we really do not try to take out time to make sure that there are people that we're going to hand the baton over to, right here. Education is very key. So that message is important, that the content for that message is on the media where these guys are natives, okay? The social media. Now, in terms of the Afro champions, I don't know if you watched the Mansa show yesterday, that there's a Mansa in each one of us, okay? How do you see, the power of global Africa is so strong that, and when we're speaking global Africa, we're speaking of Africans, we're speaking of the Africans in the Caribbean, we're speaking of Africans in the diaspora. It's very interesting because it's almost like it looked like a negative thing for all that emigration, but it's actually like a Trojan horse scenario. They are there, okay, in the Western world. They've garnered experience. They've gotten skill. They've gathered capital, okay? It is time for us to begin to use that message and let them understand the potential that we have as one body, okay? So it must be a deliberate thing. It can't just be lip service being paid to it. It must be deliberate. As a matter of fact, I'm thinking, in our curriculum now, okay, when you look at the history, in those days, yes, we used to learn about history of Mansa Musa and all of those things a lot. These days, we're learning about, the French Revolution and all those things. Yes, they are important. But shouldn't we have a subject called Global Africa? A content. So we create content to let people know who we are and who we are able to be, if we so decide. Especially leveraging the power of technology. I'll just take a minute on AI because I heard you mention something like that. You see, today, if you look at the uptake of the STEM curriculum, science and all that, that is moving the fourth revolution that you spoke about, the uptake is about 20-something%. So there must be deliberateness in ensuring that people use AI. Now, AI is so important for today, so that instead of having one company recruit 10,000 staff, you have 10,000 people recruiting 5 staff because of the power of technology. And the youth are the ones that have that understanding. But there must be a deliberateness in ensuring that that is part of the agenda all the time.
Yeah. Crystal, we've got a minute and 40 seconds to split across the three of you. So I'll start off with you, Crystal. What should a regional collaboration between Afro-Caribbean youth to enhance their impact on the global stage look like?
Oh, that's a deep question that I wasn't ready for. First of all, the Caribbean understands its history. It understands the link with the motherland. There were certain things that were mentioned in certain panels before. The fact that for you to be able to get to us and for us to get to you, it's prohibitive. We would really like for that connection to deepen, but there are certain barriers that have to be removed. We are now understanding our culture better through music, through Afrobeats. But what we would need for us to be able to deepen that relationship, is for us to get more in terms of the understanding the economy, understanding the culture, understanding tradition better, and for you in Africa to understand us better. Because yes, we understand our generational link, but a lot was lost in that Atlantic journey we'll not go into right now, you know, that cruise we took across right? And so for us to be able to now marry, we now need to break down the barriers that have been intentionally and unintentionally be put up. And we will find that we can now communicate, have one language, one voice, one vision, and for us to build the global Africa that my new friend here was just referring to.
Yeah. Okay, our time is up. I'm just going to borrow 1 minute of Mark's time. Lamia, what about you? Intergenerational dialogue. What is the perfect way of looking at it? What should it look like?
Yeah, so intergenerational dialogue should come really from self-awareness, understanding our power, where it comes from. And really, there is no one size fits all. We should have our own identity, our own approach, because we have uniqueness, what really matters, what makes us special as Africans. So every country, we have our comparative and competitive advantages. So if you look, as we mentioned, like Nigeria succeeded in, for example, Afrobeats and the cinema industry, while, for example, in Egypt, we are building new capital infrastructure, which is crucial to support investment and trade. This morning, sorry, I see that.
It's saying please wrap, so please wrap.
I woke up in a very good news that Egypt Air is now flying to new 3 African destinations. So this is something that we should take into consideration without really having to take transit visa from any other country. We should work on that, bringing people together, allowing really people to speak, to work, to collaborate, and to give opportunities for young people also to be part of what is going on the African level.
Ladies and gentlemen, we could continue this conversation for hours, but please give a resounding round of applause to my panelists, Ms. Chido Mpemba, AU Chairperson Special Envoy on Youth, Mr. Gabriel Edgal, Chairman and Chief Executive Officer, Oakwood Green Africa Limited, Ms. Cristal Riviere, COO, St. Lucia Agency for Youth Economy, and Ms. Lamia Miligui?
Yes.
Yes,
right.
we're there,
Correct.
we're there, don't worry, we're there. Expert in international economic cooperation and development. And my name is Anita Erskine, and it's been an honor to continue being the 16-year-old that I believe I am. Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget, youth is in your heart. Don't fear aging, but fear what would happen if you don't give the young people in our communities agency. Over to you, Mark.
Preach it. Oh yes. Thank you, Anita. Thank you. Okay, we're moving on to another really interesting panel here. Very dynamic panel. We're talking about creatives. We're talking about youth. Now, before I introduce this panel, which is called From Tangibles to Intangibles, Realizing Opportunities for Afri-Caribbean Trade in Creative and Cultural Products. We've got some great speakers. There is a star of stage and screen from Nigeria. There's a global star of stage and screen that you will recognize instantly when he comes out. Actually, when he does come out, if he shares with you a video of the two of us talking backstage where I admitted, as a Nigerian, that Ghanaian jollof is better than Nigerian jollof. Wait, just know that it's a fake. It's AI generated. It looks like me, walks like me, talks like me, but it's deep fake. So just ignore it, okay? So without much ado, let me call the moderator. The moderator for this session is the news anchor for BBC News. Give a warm round of applause to Lukwesa Burak.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to what I hope is going to be a really exciting and also informative session. We're talking about creatives. Why does it matter? Well, let me just tell you a little story first off. As an African living in the UK, I carry Africa with me everywhere I go. I was in Dubai recently, and I was so hot, I was wafting myself with a fan that I got from Afreximbank. And people were admiring my fan. I said, oh, it's from Ghana. They were only talking to me because they wanted the benefit of the fan, because we were all standing in the desert. South Africa, I wear the beadwork with pride, and I have done so on television as well. The TV industry is very aesthetic. African products, African cultural products, were one time looked down upon. Not anymore. Absolutely not anymore. I am wearing Nigerian fashion design. I've worn Nigeria on TV, on the BBC News. I've worn Cameroonian fashion. I've worn Zambian fashion when I'm presenting the news. And I always try and advertise my continent whenever I travel. I was in Zambia recently. I hung off the edge of the Victoria Falls, or Mosi Otunya, as I should call it. I jumped off Victoria Bridge like a mad woman. Basically, what I'm saying is, as Africans, we have a fierce pride within us, and we try to access our culture and our heritage wherever and whenever we can. So we need the help to get the access to those products. I've smuggled drums in from Zambia into the UK. I've taken a whole suitcase of chitenge, which is the beautiful painted fabrics. But today, what we're going to do is try and work out how and what we can do to improve the situation for creatives. I'm hearing it's actually very, very healthy right now. We want to know how we can make it better, because as we know, it's always better in the Bahamas. So, woo! You're all showing your age here. That's an old song. Anyway, let me introduce my panel. They are going to help me to unlock the potential of the creative industry. Joining me today, I have Mr. Osahon Akpata, who is the head of Canex Creations Incorporated, which is an arm of the Afreximbank. A round of applause, please. We also have the Honourable Ginger M. Moxie, the Minister for Grand Bahama. We have Ms. Renee Robinson, the Chief Strategist at Tidal Rise. I have to take a slight breath here, slight breath. I wasn't told about this next guest. Boris Kodjo. Woo! Actor, producer, investor, and creator. Welcome to the stage, Boris. And all the way from Nigeria, Miss Genevieve Naji. Woo! Okay, so you can see where we're going with this. All our guests have had various experience on their journey within the creative industry and hoping to get some insight and also learn something new about how we can make things better. But the first thing I want to talk about is this is all part of what is known as the orange economy. Does anybody know what the orange economy is? Okay. Okay, a couple of hands up. Minister, I'm going to come to you first because I looked it up on UNESCO, and even UNESCO are very blurry about this. Okay, they said the definition is very difficult because it combines so many things. So, for Grand Bahama, what is and what does the green economy, the orange economy, mean to you?
Okay, so I would say for the Bahamas, the tourism is our #1 industry. And you would hear our Prime Minister and our Deputy Prime Minister and all of us say, it's better in the Bahamas. And while people come for the sun, sand, and sea, what they really want is the people. They want that experience. They want that culture, the arts, the craft. They want to know what it is we do, what we're all about. And I consider that the orange economy. We place so much focus on it that in our own platform, in our own blueprint for change for how we govern the country, the orange economy plays a pivotal role. So for me, it is who we are, what we do, how we act, and it's what people come to the Bahamas for.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So our focus today is going to be with the Minister on tourism and products as well, cultural products. But obviously, because of my panel and who they're made up of, we're going to focus a lot on the film industry. So I'm going to start off by asking, just how healthy is that space? Genevieve, could you take it away, please?
Well, thank you for having me. It's, in terms of health, it's challenging right now, right? Because, we have struggles with exporting our content at the moment. But we're still working hard, and, we believe in what we're doing. We're still trying to stay authentic and stay focused on what the goal is, which is exporting the best parts of us. So there is a balance between the creative and the business that we're still trying to find the fine lines within that space. At least for me, I'm trying to stay focused on the arts. And like I said, most importantly, our authenticity, because that's kind of a part that we need to preserve for as long as we can.
I'm going to come to the business side of things because creatives suddenly have to put their business head on if they're going to make it. What's that journey been like? Negotiating, for heaven's sakes, doing the sums. Boris, you are on the other side of the planet. You've been there. You've done amazing things. You basically led the big return to Ghana. How healthy is the space, in your opinion? The creative space, the film space?
Well, globally, creative industries amount to $2 trillion a year. So it's a huge space. If you look at the continent, a couple of numbers. People of African descent in general, 2 billion people. The youngest generation, or the youngest population of any continent in the world at 19 years old. America is 36 years old, Europe 42. So we're getting younger, everybody else is getting older. 400 million people between the ages of 18 and 35. Right now, Africa is at 1% streaming. The United States is at 75% streaming. What that means is it's a huge opportunity to take advantage of this burgeoning market that's happening there, which is in alignment with telecom. 5G is now 250 million households in Africa. So as that goes up, so does the demand for content, because what's happened in the last 10 years or 15 years is that the distribution models have changed dramatically, where people now, instead of going to the theater, they're enjoying their content on their devices. Africa has the most devices of any continent, over 1 billion devices, twice as many as the US and Europe. So what's happening now is that as we rethink these traditional distribution models, we understand and we realize that Africa is actually the biggest market when you're talking about the next 15 years. I always call Africa in a pre-IPO phase. And for content, it's the same thing. There's huge opportunity now that we're getting ready for as content providers. And the key is to create content that shapes narratives that are counteracting all those stereotypical and old narratives that Africa has been subjected to for the past 100 years. So, thank you. That's very important, because one of the biggest challenges that we have in Africa is perception. And as we create our own content, as we own the entire content value chain, we will change that narrative and we will change the future that is Africa.
Just before I move on, yeah, fantastic. Just before I move on, how is, because obviously you're talking about the huge market that Africa offers, huge, huge, but often Africa's trying to export out. So how is African content regarded? I mean, you know the US market, you know Europe as well. How is it perceived?
Well, I think we're still getting caught up with them instead of worrying about ourselves. I think that we are the gatekeepers, nobody else. Distribution is completely individualized now. If you have a phone, you can create a movie. So it's really up to us and what we do with that, how we partner, how we create collectives and synergies, and how we use our collective strength and power creatively as leverage. So in terms of your question, it's really a great time right now to think about creating content that you said that we can export, yes. The most important part of that is that we have to empower and protect our talent. We have to stop exporting our talent. So, yes, control, protect, empower our own storytellers, our talent, be authentic, like you said, be authentic to that, but with an eye on global distribution. There's nothing wrong with doing a movie about something that is authentic and regional for you, as long as that piece of content has relevance globally. It's like when you manufacture chocolate or you process raw materials to manufacture chocolate, the only way you have a business is if you export that chocolate beyond your boundaries. You cannot just create chocolate for your own village or your city or your state or even your country. It's not going to be a viable business. So as we think about content, we have to think about how do we create content that's authentic to who we are, but has relevance outside of where we are. That's how you create an industry.
Authentic. What does that mean to you, Renee? I mean, you have a good handle on the Jamaican space within a global context, because you have traveled far and wide, haven't you?
I have, and I want to, honestly, I feel like what you just said speaks very much to the way that I feel about the Caribbean and what it is that's happening. And to add to this, so I would say that the orange economy is, even while we're still trying to define it, it is in fact the industry that is going to future-proof our region. Yeah. Like beyond a doubt, it is the orange economy that is going to future-proof our region for the Caribbean. And when we think about the global demand for that content that has cultural specificity but has that global appeal, you know, we can't deny it. We have that special sauce that people want. You know, that's what's in us. It's what's part of all of us. We have that special sauce. And you see it in the demand that has opened up. You see it in the desire and the interest for this type of content, which is being considered undiscovered. But it's not undiscovered for us. We just need to be able to be more strategic and more specific and more consistent with how we create those pathways and that access, and also with how we collaborate with each other around the region and with Africa.
Yes. And that's where you come in, Mr. Osahan, because you are the creative arm of Afreximbank. Some big key words that I heard there: collaborate, strategic pathways, financing is always in the mix. So tell me, what's Canex bringing to the table?
So Canex is an initiative that the bank set up a few years ago with the goal of unlocking value within the creative industries in Africa and the Caribbean. And what Afreximbank is bringing with Canex is it has already started doing a number of initiatives around capacity building, market access, and it has created a number of products for financing. Canex Creations Incorporated, which I've come in here to work with, is an entity that is focused on equity investments in that space, looking at the intellectual property and figuring out how do we monetize, commercialize our intellectual property better. And so the bank is essentially bringing financing, it's bringing capacity building, it's bringing strategic partnerships that would open the door for us to do even better, and also bringing people together to be able to collaborate. So for example, a few days ago, I was speaking with a friend, and he said to me, he knows a TV network program manager in Barbados, and she was trying to buy some content from Nollywood, but she didn't know how to go about it to be able to get good quality content that has all the rights cleared and the required things to be able to put on our platform. And it seems so straightforward to me because I know the companies that do aggregation for international streamers, etc. But she doesn't know them. So you need a platform that brings them together. And Afreximbank is building something called Canex.Africa, which you would all hear about soon. It's in beta tasting phase right now. And basically what we would do with that platform is allow for people to be able to access information that would allow them to collaborate better or access things like that. Yeah.
What makes you the man for this job? Why does the creative industry mean so much to you? You're a numbers man, aren't you?
I'm left brain, right brain. So I'm a writer. I'm a creative person myself.
There you go.
I published a book when I was 11 years old.
11 years old, he wrote his first book.
I'm also a producer. I've produced a documentary. I've produced a big project, art projects and stuff like that. So personally, it's interesting for me to see how you can monetize creative content properly. I know that we're constrained on the continent by a number of things, including distribution, and I think it was spoken about earlier. And I have a very strong interest in seeing that change. So that's why I'm here.
Just before we move on to the business side, just whilst we're on the financing, why was it important for Afreximbank to support this industry? Because many people, it's something that you do by the weekend. They have no idea just how much and to what degree the creative industry is within our lives. But it costs. It costs to make. It costs to distribute it. It costs to have access to it. So what was the turning point for Afrexim to think, hang on, we need to support them?
Well, I have to credit the leadership of the bank. I wasn't there when they started Canex as an initiative, but the president and the leadership team are very visionary. And they saw that the creative industry was something that was an industry that wasn't really being leveraged properly. And nobody was thinking about how to work to unlock the value that's in there. And they said, let's do something bold, and let's actually go forward and do something in this creative industry to see how we can get a good result. And that's why they decided to do it, from what I've seen so far.
Genevieve, I'm going to come to you very quickly, because you started in this industry. Were you 8 years old? Is that right, when you first started acting?
Well, there wasn't Nollywood at the time, but yes.
8 years old. She's been awarded by Good Luck Jonathan. She's been invited to be part of the Oscars voting board. When you went to Hollywood, what did you find that you took back to Nigeria and the African continent that you didn't realize but has changed the way you now operate?
Well, for the first time, I realized I was a commodity.
You were a commodity?
Yeah.
Right.
I thought, you know, given what I had done with Lionheart and all of that, I was going to have an opportunity to do more. Getting there and having the kind of support that obviously, you know, Canex is bringing on board, but I thought I could find it in Hollywood. That was not quite the case. They wanted what I had, but for their benefits. It was all about their story. It was all about how I could bring, even if it was our story, how I could make it more like them or, you know, more authentic to their own understanding of whatever Africa is, because they did have a lot of literature in their archive. And that was, I'm Nollywood. I could have gone to Hollywood a long time if I wanted to, but I had a dream to build an industry in Nigeria that could rival, because I always believed in that. I always knew that we were capable of actually owning an industry like that, that told our story for our people. And I wanted that. I respect what Hollywood is doing. I respect what Bollywood is doing. And I felt Nollywood had an equal chance at it. So when I found out that it wasn't quite what they had in mind, I'm like, I'm just going to wait this out. And then COVID happened. Okay. Yeah, and that kind of switched everything. The world switched at that point, and then African became it.
Boris, how do you? I mean, obviously you've been European, German, then the United States, Africa. You've got, feet everywhere. But in terms of commercializing, just tell us, what is key? What are the key processes, the value chains that will help to increase trade and also commercialize the product? What's really important to realize here?
Well, the value chain is everything from conception to production, distribution, monetization, advertising, marketing. It all goes into one sort of big process. And in order for us in Africa to be able to participate our way, meaning authenticity, ownership, not giving away IP anymore, not selling IP, but owning IP, and monetizing IP over time, because you have to look at movies like a real estate play, right? It's an asset that continues to generate profits over time. Theatrical releases is just one small piece of it. You have streamers now, you have pay-per-view, you have fast channels, which is a whole new type of channel that just evolved over the past 3 years, where companies like Samsung and Vizio are now offering channels that are built into their TVs when you get them, so you don't have to sign up to any cable networks or anything. Those are called fast channels. Now, when you're a content provider, you can make a deal with Samsung and create your own channel on these Samsung TVs, and you make money because you own the content, so you generate revenue shares with them. That's a fast channel. That's now popping up, right? Then you have cable networks. You have regular networks globally. So there's a lot that you can think about in terms of how content matures over time and how much money it makes for you if you own the content. Now that's the key. You have to own the content. Now, in Hollywood, the way it works is when you see all these huge movies like Marvel and those big action movies with Tom Cruise, those are movies that are not made for investors. Those movies are made for the stock price of those big institutions to go up 1.5 points. That's why they continue to make those movies. They're not very profitable movies. It's very hard to make $500 million back. It's almost impossible. Now, the most profitable genre in filmmaking is under 10 million, or more specifically, even under 5 million. Those movies have historically always made money. Black movies happen to fall in that category, right? Now, the problem is that we always have to raise money for one movie, then the movie comes out over time, and then we have to raise money again for the next one. So to scale that model is the key. Because when you scale that model to a tune of 20, 50, even 100 movies, you have the ability to own the content in the most profitable space and also create ownership along the entire value chain. You can build your own studios where you can control cost structure. You can rent out studio space to other companies. Owning a studio is also a real estate play, because within 10 years now you have a commercial real estate value that doubles, triples, quadruples in value. And then, of course, the fourth vertical that you can't underestimate is AI, where you have to make sure that you invested in AI technology, because over the next 5 to 10 years, AI is going to take over the content space. It's going to allow us to do things much cheaper, whether it's production or post-production and editing, even writing now. You know, ChatGPT has started a whole discussion around ownership and how we as creatives, as writers, can still benefit. But in terms of us, people of African descent, controlling our IP, our narrative, it is absolutely invaluable for us to own the entire value chain. And there's nothing that stands in our way. Yeah. Especially there's nothing that stands in our way, especially with amazing partners like Afreximbank, who are thinking outside the box, who are visionaries and who are courageous to venture out in industries that they haven't invested in before. They understand how viable that industry is globally and therefore in Africa, because of the transformation that Africa is going through right now.
And one of the spin-offs, obviously, that taking the African story abroad, or having it as a success on the continent, having it watched in the Caribbean, is to bring interest in that location. Yes, I'm coming to you. And I'm talking about another aspect of the sector, which is tourism. We can't not talk about tourism. How important is a spin-off like tourism, and tourism in general, to like the Bahamas? But at the same time, Minister, I wonder if you could address this key question of diversification against the backdrop of climate change.
Okay, so my island would have been heavily impacted by Hurricane Dorian, and then of course we had the pandemic, and we had to diversify when it comes to the cultural industry. And so I believe that we were able to, from a culinary standpoint, from the way we produce our product, the way we take it to market, we've been successful in that regard. So it's, I think, critical that we're able to diversify because we have to deal with climate change in this area of the world, that we are very, very focused on how we are able to mitigate. So I consider my island to be the island of resiliency, because we've been through some of the most devastating storms of the past, and we've been able to rebuild. But with respect to the way we produce our products, we've been, I think, able to engage with others. We've been, of course, using the digital platforms more so than ever before. We've been engaged with the Ministry of Tourism, Investments and Aviation, who has played a key role in ensuring that we're able to continue to support our creative industry. The Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture as well has been engaged. And so I believe that we have continued to provide opportunities that our people are still able to excel in spite of what we go through when it comes to climate change.
Thank you for that. I want to talk now about some of the strategic partnerships that are required to make this happen, the policies that need to come off the back of this, this crossing, this melding of cultures. Let's just stay with the Caribbean and Africa, because there is that huge urge, isn't it, to return, to go back to your roots, to return home. I know we were speaking earlier, and I think there was, Renee, I think you've got these figures for us. How much trade is there, and how important are things such as festivals?
Well, I think when we're thinking about the ecosystem and how we're going to be able to better stimulate trade, we have to think about some of the policies and processes that need to be in place. So, for example, Jamaica is the only English-speaking Caribbean country that has a co-production treaty at all, and it has never been used, and it's been signed maybe 15 years ago. And so when we think about these policies that are in place, so whether it is policies relating to co-production, if it's policies relating to broadcast screen quotas, if it's policies relating to percentages of locals that need to be employed in an international project that's shooting on the island, if it's related to a tax incentive or a tax credit or any of those things. So there's sort of standard policies that need to be in place in order to stimulate the development of a local ecosystem or a regional ecosystem. And I think across the Caribbean, we're still struggling with many of those. So across the Caribbean, there's probably, I was a part of a research project that looked at 25 countries across the Caribbean and CARIFORUM. 48% of these countries have film commissions in place. However, when they say film commission, that might be one person who's in one desk with no resources, no staff, you know, like nothing supporting them to be able to actually do that work. And out of that 48% of the countries around the region that do have film commissions, only 12% of them have any tax incentive in place or any sort of fiscal policy that would be in place in order to support the development of this trillion-dollar industry that we are playing in.
It's a lot of wonga.
Yeah. So there's a lot of work to be done, but there's also a huge area of opportunity where those gaps take place.
So, as the money man, how would you help, for example, in establishing those strategic partnerships, those collaborations? Do you understand why they're important from the financial sense?
Yes, so there's a lot of work that goes into trade facilitation within Afreximbank. There's a whole team that focuses on what can we do to ensure that the policies are in place so that people can trade more within the regions. So what a bank or development finance institution like Afreximbank does is look to see where the opportunity is to influence or support initiatives so that you can have the policies be created in a way that allows business to grow and allows the economy to grow, jobs to be created, etc. So what Renee was talking about, if there's this, policy is not there, then we can engage the governments and say, hey, listen, there needs to be a good policy here and it needs to be backed up with the necessary amount of resources so that you can have these types of collaborations happening, these types of co-productions happening, and they listen.
Okay. Can I chime in there?
Go ahead.
We are collaborating now with CanX.
Okay.
We would have signed a project preparation facility with Afreximbank to establish an Afro-Caribbean marketplace on Grand Bahama Island. And so all 54 or 55 African countries should be represented, 20 countries in the Caribbean, 16 islands of the Bahamas, where you get the best of what these countries have to offer in terms of its, its arts, craft, music, culture, festivals. And CanX is going to play a key role in co-producing the way it looks. So the architects who are a part of it from CanX will be able to assist in designing, for example, the Ghana Pavilion or the Namibia Pavilion or the South Africa Pavilion. And then those from the Caribbean will be able to produce theirs. And then when we have the music, when we have Afro beats, joining in with Jonkanu and Rake and Scrape and soca and all of the music that we have in the Caribbean, then we'll be able to see our people coming together and collaborating on all that we are. And so I think it's important to show how we're already working together with CanX.
Right.
Also participating in CanX weekend in
Algeria. 16 to 19th of October, just a little plug there.
Yes.
Algiers.
Good. So we're working.
I think it's also important that we emphasize that we need to be investing in these opportunities ourselves. So Burna Boy just invested in the Development Bank of Jamaica's fund, which was launched a few days ago.
Yes.
He's one of the key investors in this program. And it's a venture capital fund. And I think that, when we start thinking of ourselves that, yes, we are creators, but we are also business people, and we also need to be thinking in this way that we translate. There are creative persons who have to be able to speak the business language, but there's also business people that need to be able to understand and value the creative economy, and to be able to see that this is something that has value and is important to us, and we have to be able to translate that.
Agreed. I think that each country has to make a collective effort to build their creative industry into the overall idea of commerce in that country.
Absolutely.
Because you cannot divide, you cannot separate the two.
Yeah.
Creativity is business.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? Business is creativity. When people talk about innovation, what is innovation? Innovation is creative thought, right? So you cannot separate the two. And the idea that creatives are engaging in a hobby is completely absurd. It's not a hobby. It's actually stimulating the economy. So there has to be a real consolidated effort to put those resources behind those creative industries. I'll give you an example. Yes, I'll give you an example. There's a movie that came out 3 years ago called Crazy Rich Asians.
Yes.
When that movie came out, it boosted tourism in Singapore by 180%, which then had a huge economic impact across sectors in Singapore. When we did Full Circle Africa in Ghana, we took Ghana from 40,000 tourist visa to 1.2 million the next year. That's $1.6 billion in economic growth through content.
Yes.
That's creative content, right? So we have to stop talking about the creative industry like it's a hobby or a charity. It's not. It is business that stimulates economy in more than one way. It has economic impact. It has social impact. It has cultural impact. It teaches people about each other and about other people. So if I was running a country, I would be investing primarily in the creative industries because it stimulates every facet of the economy.
Yes, agreed.
I've got red lights flashing at me here. Red lights flashing at me, but this is going to be like a 10-second answer before I get shouted at. Genevieve, in 10 seconds, what did you learn about the business side that you would pass on really quickly, the business side?
I think the business definitely needs to be in touch with the creative. We have to go hand in hand. You have to respect the creative for you to actually get your money's worth business-wise.
Boris, you're also an investor. What do you look for in investing? Where are you going to put your money?
I invest in people.
Okay.
People with a purpose.
Yes.
And Renee, how are you going to make Jamaica global?
Well, we're doing it already, but as I was saying, what we think about as special sauce, it really is our competitive advantage. It is our natural competitive advantage, and we need to take it seriously.
What is that sauce you keep talking about? The special. What is the sauce? Give us the secret. I want to know the sauce.
A minister, I was asking my mum to bring pepper back. She wanted authentic pepper. And then I was told by the ladies in the hotel, no, you want straw, the straw products. Brand Bahamas. How would you describe it?
Everyone knows the Bahamas. Everyone loves the Bahamas because it's better in the Bahamas.
And when can we have access to this money? Mr. Akpata?
It has already started in some way, but from Canex Creations Incorporated, Q4.
You heard it right here, folks. You heard it right here. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you to my panel, and thank you for listening.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oops.
And a round of applause for our great moderator, Lukwesa Burak. All right, we're nearing the finishing line here, and we can party very soon. I got something very, very special for you, so I hope you brought your dancing shoes. One last session, actually, one last full session. This is plenary session 7. It's got a lovely name, Different Colors, One People. Different Colors, One People. Integration through shared culture and shared heritage. Your moderator for this panel, please give a round of applause to journalist, BBC News, Lisa Marie Miztak.
Testing? Oh, we are. Okay. Hello. Good afternoon to all of you, and welcome. Now, over the next 40 minutes, we're going to delve into global Africa, and that's from the perspective of the diaspora. It's estimated that more than 200 million people of African descent live outside of the continent, and this figure will soon make up over 25% of the global population, which is huge. So within this session, we will explore how this historic shared heritage can drive economic integration and prosperity for global Africa. So joining me on stage is Miss Rosa Whittaker Duncan Williams, President and CEO of the Whittaker Group. She is here. Just give her a moment. Ah, okay, so it's Boris. Boris is holding everyone up, apparently. Okay, she's coming. So please do give her a round of applause as she makes her way to the stage. This is Miss Rosa Whittaker Duncan Williams, President and CEO of the Whittaker Group. Next up, we have Miss Elizabeth Ogbola, founder and CEO, NTT Global Destinations. Dr. Idem Adjoganu, co-chair Afro Champions. Robert Young, founder The Cloth, Trinidad and Tobago. Morel Barrow Megan, founder, president, Caribbean in Transit. Mr. Kenneth I.B. Node, president, Vintage Vantage Advisory Canada. And Senator Quinton Lightbourne, chairman of the Bahamas Development Bank. Now that I've got my mic, it's fantastic to have you all on stage, so thank you and welcome. I hope you've all been enjoying the past 3 days as much as I have. Now, to kick off, because we've only got 40 minutes, I want to ask you all a question, and I want you to be able to answer it in 1 minute or less. And that question is, please tell us what global Africa means to you.
Thank you. Global Africa represents for me the unfinished business of those early pioneers of Pan-Africanism. What it is a reigniting of the early vision and an expansion of the vision to put economic integration, economic growth, leveraging our common heritage and our collective wealth for the advancement of our people. And I would just say that collectively, African American community, the Caribbean, and Africa represents an economy of about $5.4 trillion. And that, to me, represents a powerful, formidable global Africa.
Thank you very much. Elizabeth, to you next.
Without repeating what you've said, I would say global Africa pretty much is one without borders, one without us having to go through so many countries to connect with each other. So I'm talking about direct flight connectivity, one with less visa issues, really pretty much straightforward where someone in the Caribbean can just come down to any country in Africa, set up their business, set up their lives, and just feel like it's a continuation of their home, really.
To me, global Africa represents an Africa that is setting new standards for the global family, moving away from the development model that is driving the earth at a neck-break speed to collision, and moving into an avenue where we set new standards for the world using what I call the 4 Cs: community, climate, culture, and creativity. and allowing everybody else to now come learn from us. And that's possible because we have the most youthful population, making the oldest planet being the freshest source of dynamism and opportunity for the rest of the world. Thank you.
Hi, Robert Young. I think we should just take a moment to notice who's here, who didn't arrive, the beauty of our space, and the grief that we embody. To be able to recognize global Africa, we have to step from there. To be able to just notice that we are actually together now, and that a lot has happened. Beautiful things, and also very hard things. And we have to be able to work on that grief to be able to give the love that we need to do, the work.
Awakening a cultural consciousness and perhaps an unconsciousness in our communities is really where global Africa lies. And we have to think about how we are globalizing the value of African contributions, and whether that means materially, historically, ideologically, and how we move from there to the economic potential has to be thoughtful and has to be meaningfully engaged.
So I would say Global Africa, for me, is an idea that has come to stay. It represents the global influence of Africa and its diaspora, and the contributions that this group has made and is making in terms of culture, knowledge, and economic development. It's the realization of the dreams of our founding fathers. By that I mean pre-independence, as well as notable names like Marcus Garvey, who said to us, unless we go back to our roots, we are floating.
So global Africa, for me as a financial professional, is talk about facilitating the financial empowerment for so many African countries and across the African diaspora, and definitely from the Caribbean perspective, because there's so unlimitless, and things that can be done, and how we are truly connected as a people throughout the cross-section, throughout centuries. And those are some of the things for me what global Africa means. It's a unification of all of us as people of African descent.
Thank you very much for that all. Now, I'm going to come and turn to you, Ms. Whitaker, because you've been instrumental in trade and investment initiatives across Africa. How can global Africa's historic linkages be leveraged to boost prosperity?
I think we should really build on what we're doing, because we're seeing some tremendous progress. When we look at the billion-dollar creative economy, more than $1 billion creative economy in Africa, and we see the linkages that's happening across the globe. When we look at the trade and investment that is growing in our relationship, the trust, the understanding, what we have today with Afreximbank actually putting resources to leverage these connections. As I said, we are a $5.4 trillion economy. So I think we need to continue to build on these linkages. We have a lot of work to do. We definitely have to do more in terms of education and awareness and trust. Something meaningful happened, and it was a microcosm. It was a moment for me, an aha moment. Wednesday, this forum opened with the performance of the National Black Anthem. And that's a song, it wasn't lost on African Americans, a song very, very important to us. It's the first time, I know for me, many of us have heard that song played outside of the shores of America. And it is an appropriate way to build the kind of linkages because it has a universal narrative about unity, about building, about growth, about equity. And that is a theme for global Africa.
Thank you very much for that. Now, you mentioned a few things there, and one of those things I want to highlight is capital, and the capital is there. And access to capital is key for growth. So, Kenneth, I'm going to come to you because when we look at remittance, it's around $100 billion per year that's going into the continent. But I wonder what's there for Afro-Caribbean diaspora for them to be able to access any money to be able to grow their businesses. And considering your background in banking, how can a bridge be made to link diaspora communities with access to finance in Africa?
Well, we can say all what we want to say about global Africa. If money doesn't follow that, it's all a waste of time. Because there is global competition for power. And power, in this case, is defined as people, in other words, population, as well as wealth. If you don't have those two, you will continue to lag. That's what happened to China in what they describe as the lost century, where they had the number, but they did not have the wealth. So we have the number, Africa, Caribbean, diaspora, we have the numbers, we need the wealth. To link up to the wealth, we have already seen initiatives like what Afreximbank has done, extending facility to the Caribbean. We need to see more like that. We should have diaspora funds, and then maybe also have some bonds, that allow our people in the diaspora to invest, and capture the value in extra income that is typically available, on the continent. So I would say, let's continue to do what we are doing on the Afreximbank side, and then let us look at initiatives that allow us to issue bonds, that allow us to structure funds that attract capital, to the motherland, as well as also finance innovative ideas, from our people in the diaspora.
Thank you very much. Now, you mentioned there initiatives that we can draw on. Dr. Edem, you championed the landmark $1 trillion private sector AFCFTA investment and financing framework. How can those in the diaspora benefit from such initiatives as that?
Thank you. And the $1 trillion investment framework was designed to catalyze at least $100 billion of investments into the continent every year for at least the next 10 years to accelerate CFTA. And the diaspora plays a very critical role in that, because if you take the population of the world we're talking about, or the population of Africa, which is 1.2 billion, add that to the 200 million Africans, people of African descent globally, that's 1.4 billion or 1.5 billion, close to a quarter of the population of the world, right? With the right value chains, with the right alignment of industrial policies, and the right, as Rosa said, connecting the cultures across the continent, the diaspora, in my view, could contribute a significant amount of resources into that. And I'll just mention two critical areas. If you take the tourism area in particular, because we are talking about cultures and heritage, we've seen how it's probably the only sector that can transform an entire country or a sector of the economy in a matter of generational lifespan, right? We've seen it happen where, say, Thailand was contributing in the 60s, 1% to its GDP from tourism. And now, 30 years later, we saw it contributing almost 300% of that, competing with agriculture and other things. We've seen it in other areas. I mean, you take places like Cancun, which was never really uninhabited. In 30 years, all those places have become global brands. So if we select what the Caribbean, what the African diaspora has to give the world, and define it around values and cultures that allow us to make them global brands, and get African populations consuming, patronizing these brands, there you're catalyzing hundreds of billions into the economy of Africa, because those markets exist. They're going somewhere for vacations. They're spending money. They're spending all these resources somewhere else. What a town like Phuket has contributed globally as a brand outstrips what automotive industries, aerospace industries, or what fashion has done in France, for example, has stripped a lot of these other things by far. So identifying this brand, I mean, these things that we have that fall within our vertical economic models, things that we control, we can create, we can produce, we can harness, and we can consume ourselves. And I think that's where we need to pay attention to what the diaspora is already offering the world, and seeing how we can create the policies that ensure that Africa can attract those resources. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Now, staying on the topic of tourism, Senator Lightbourne, I'm going to come to you because last year it was around 10 million people visited the Bahamas. How can the tourism sector maximize its potential to attract those in the diaspora?
Definitely. So we've been definitely benefactors. Thank you, Ron. We've been benefactors of the great tourism product for quite some time. And so these are some of the things moving forward. The Ministry of Tourism in the Bahamas is looking at trying to increase direct airlift from Africa to the Nassau Bahamas. That's one of the things that we're trying to do with our investment as well in the International Bazaar in Grand Bahama to make it a cultural hub. And these are some of the things that are transformative. And also tourism allows you to be very diverse. We have sports tourism, we have cultural tourism, we have religious tourism. These are aspects, and it opens up a world of opportunities for so many persons. And that's one of the key things from a tourism standpoint that we've been benefactors of, and we'll continue to do so because those are the avenues that we as people from the African diaspora must tap into, obviously traveling and understanding that we're all alike throughout the Caribbean region.
Thank you very much. Now, Elizabeth, I'm going to turn to you because what Senator said is also similar to the types of things that you work on. You help encourage those in the diaspora to travel. So how can the global tourism sector maximize its potential by attracting the diaspora as well? Because that's the type of work that you're involved in, and you have created specific initiatives. So please do tell us about that.
Thank you. Well, we cannot actually chart our own destiny without our own direct flight or maritime connections. You might not know this, I mean, for those not African or not Nigerian in the house, without what I call the Holy Trinity, which is either a UK visa, a US visa, or a Schengen visa, you cannot transit into the Caribbean from any African country. And as I called it, Holy Trinity, it is as sacred, which means it's not accessible to all. So that is one problem in itself, and what that means is for anyone to come down to the Caribbean to explore the beautiful tourism opportunities, we're talking about 3 days travel. I would take from Lagos, you would have to go from Lagos to Istanbul, from Istanbul to Caracas in Venezuela, and from Venezuela to Trinidad, and from Trinidad to Jamaica. That would take you 3 days. I'm sure you'll be exhausted before you get there to come for any tourism activity. So technically, it's not sustainable to promote tourism for the global Africa without a direct flight. In 2020, December, in the peak of COVID, our company had the first direct flight between Nigeria and the Caribbean in general, our country, Jamaica. When we did this flight, we just wanted to take a trip because it was COVID, everywhere was closed, and Jamaica was open, and it coincided as well with the 50th year of diplomatic relationships between Nigeria and Jamaica. So it was quite a good flight. We chartered the services of our Nigerian carrier air because that was the first time some people would have connected with their families in the Caribbean, but the families were in the Americas. So we had people come from the US, we had people come from Canada to Jamaica to meet their families that came from different parts of Africa on that direct flight. And beyond that, we had students, we had people come sell their own things as well. So that flight actually gave a lot of ideas of the real plans and the real dreams of connecting the both regions. However, as my daddy in taking risk, Alhaji Aliko Dangote, as I said earlier, he said, only us can fix us. No one is coming to do nothing. And there is no Western airline that is going to do a direct flight on a sustained basis. So before we can start talking about tourism matters or even trade, we're talking about getting the real folks that can make this work together for this flight to be sustainable. The other main thing that could make tourism thrive is the stereotype address. If you speak to, I will use the word average, I won't use a proper woke or educated person in Africa or in the Caribbean. If you ask them in Africa, for example, what do you know about the Caribbean? I kid you not, those level of people would only mention things like drugs. The same way an average person in the Caribbean, when you mention a country like Nigeria, they would say they are scammers. And those kind of things would not make people want to come down to Africa or the other side. So we need to actually address the stereotype, educate people, create digital community centers where people can actually learn about the continent, really. What's it called? Activities to do in Nigeria or other countries. These are things that are not very much in information sense on this side of the world. A lot of people are still asking, what can I do when I come to Africa? And this is me saying, you're talking about 54 countries. Can you choose where? Do you want to go to north, east, or west? And they're like, oh, is it not South Africa? Is it not like 5 minutes from Nigeria? No, it's more than 8 hours, 7 hours, sorry. And also, there's time difference. It's so different. But I speak on behalf of Nigeria, and I would always say, you know, Nigeria is one of the African countries that has everything in one, as opposed to the others. But any which ways, I feel like when we put this together, the quality tourism packages, the information and the address of the stereotype and the direct flight, I feel like everything we've discussed all week would all make sense.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. So it's about fostering that cultural exchange. And that leads me on to you, Marielle, because with the work you do with Caribbeans in Transit, how can we enable a creative exchange for growth?
So what my work has been about is really creating teams across multiple countries in the region. So rather than trying to bring an entire team to one country, which is very difficult given what she's talking about, transit within the Caribbean is also very complex. Oftentimes to get to Trinidad, or to get between Trinidad and the Bahamas, you have to fly through Miami. So we have team members in different countries, and we would land in those countries and activate the networks of our team member there to host events. And that's how we're able to, in a sense, do what my colleague is talking about here, create some deeper context and understanding of other cultures in the region and help to build bridges and break down the barriers between our different countries. And that has worked really well. One of our mentors from a development bank called us a civil society animal, a new civil society animal, because there was no fixed abode for our company. We roved like nomads in a sense, and we were able to activate in whatever location we found ourselves. And so that's how we've done cultural exchange that has been successful. And what we also do is create documents, and so I have a few to show here, documents that narrate the stories, the in-depth stories of creative practitioners across the region. And that documentation is so, so important. We are very oral cultures, and while that is dynamic and exciting, we also have to ensure that our kids from different lands can know what is happening if they have somehow not been in touch with those personalities. And so this process of documentation is also important because in terms of academia, we have to show up in the writings and in the journals, and we also have to have access and ownership of our own work. And so this process of documentation as a rigorous, blind, peer-reviewed document is important on numerous levels. We also do festivals, and so those festivals likewise rove from country to country. We've had them in DC, we've had them in Trinidad and Tobago, and that allows for cultural exchange in different ways as well. So we've been working with this for a number of years, and we've just developed a web platform which allows creative practitioners in 3 different languages to come together to do accelerators, to create collaborative projects, and to then launch those projects. And I think that is also perhaps one answer of many in terms of how Caribbeans can come together with our African counterparts to drive the work together, to do fusions and synesthesias of cultural forms so that we can then produce together. And I think that creates a deeper bond. And so that's the way that we have been forging for a range of creative entrepreneurs across the region, from Haiti, Cuba. We work with about 13 to 16 different countries in the region and bring them together for these accelerators. And for us, that has been really exciting.
Thank you very much for that, Morel. Now, that leads me to you, Robert, because I like what you just said about that fusion, and also within your work at the Cloth, and you're wearing your designs now. How would you describe the historical ties of Afro-diaspora communities, and how have they influenced the work that you do?
That's an interesting question. I work in Carnival. I have a project called Vulgar Fraction, which the player, it's a carnival band where I develop some concepts, but the player has to be involved in creating the costume. So instead of having creativity kept for some people, I know that all of us humans have creativity and get a chance to practice it. So this year, we did a band called Is a Bay, to bear witness, and it was the idea of how to stand in somebody else's shoe or somebody else's body and do a prayer on the other person's behalf. So it looked at the difficult situation with gangs in Trinidad and the situation in the Gaza, and how to bear witness to be in those people's shoes and how you could stand. So those are the ways I take that on. I actually sometimes use the ancestor question. What would our ancestors want for us? No. How would we, what kind of businesses, what kind of relationships we should build? How should we hold each other? Those are questions we have to ask nearly before some of this is done, because there is a way that capital nearly brings everything to market, and not everything is for sale. Because some of our societies are kept together by secrets, by stories, by ways of doing, by way of holding each other. And one of the biggest things we have to do now is to find a way to kind of hold community, regain community life. Because like with COVID pushed us apart from each other and disconnected us. And this is beautiful that we are here. And I bring that back again, because our ancestors should be happy that this is happening. And then recognizing that people died. And also, some doors that are created for us to exit or enter are just set up for us to use. And the Maroons in the Caribbean escaped in ways without plans, sometimes, because there's exactness about a business person know exactly where to go. A lot of us don't know what we're doing and don't know how we're figuring it out. And that's what creatives do. We find a way despite. we have mapless escapes. And we don't go through doors, we go through cracks. The way that how Afreximbank emerged in the region is through COVID, which was a crack. Settled us, stopped us. So we have to figure out a way to get quiet enough to listen to the messages that are there that we don't know how to hear. To make this global Africa whole. Because there's a way that capital could just consume it, and it's sexy. And it's a very careful work we have to do of how we connect things, how we hold each other, how we bring communities along. So places like investments, like in Trinidad, steel band music. Steel band is the creation of beauty where there was once none.
Robert, thank you. I don't want to interrupt you, but we're running out of time, so thank you so much. We do need to build on what we have created now. And I'm just going to come to you, Dr. Edem, because we've spoken about so many different things. We've spoken about culture, we've spoken about the history that we all have. But do you think that there's enough political will to accelerate global Africa's acceptance and impact?
I would say diplomatically, yes. However, it's going to require a lot of coordination. There's so much fragmentation, circumvention, and diversity in what we do as a continent. Having a will is not enough, I must say. It's being able to coordinate it and galvanize it in a manner that it's driven by purpose and impact. That is what will change the dial on the net.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much to my panelists. There's so much more that we could unpack, but unfortunately we've run out of time. So thank you so much. Thank you for your insights.
All right. We're nearing the finishing line. Right at the end, we're going to sit down with Wycliffe Jean, the legend, the man, the legend. That's all coming up, so make sure you sit down, get ready for that. In the meantime, you yourself will have an opportunity. We will have an opportunity to party at 7:30 because the doors are going to open at 7:30 at the New Providence Ballroom, which is in this facility for our Afrexim Fest, which is 19 of Africa and Caribbean's greatest artists are going to be performing just for you. Roll that video. Afrexim Fest coming up at the end of the evening, so make sure that you've got some energy left in your tank. We are just a short while away from that now because we've just got 2 more conversations, but man, these are great. Talk about creativity and talk about passion for your arts. Now, I'm going to call up the moderator for the first of the 2. He is an independent board director and he's an anchor at CNBC Africa, Wale Famurewa. Wale, please join the stage. Give him a round of applause, please. Now, Wale, before I go, actually, you've got like a pretty cool interview coming up, right? Okay, don't say who it is, but tell us a little bit about who you're going to interview.
Well, I know we have like what's called a graveyard shift, but fortunately, it's with a very creative person. I think you're going to really enjoy it. And I also have a surprise for the audience. You're actually going to have the opportunity to chime in and ask questions. So
fantastic.
I'm sure that should be fun.
Now, I know she was born in Lagos, she speaks Yoruba, for example,
Does.
which you do, which I do
Full-
badly.
full
yes.
Niger accent,
Yeah, and actually, creativity runs in her family because her
No doubt.
nephew Tolu was one of the young bloods who created the Disney cartoon Iwaju. If you see, has
it.
anybody seen that? It's amazing.
No,
right?
no doubt. Creativity runs in that.
So without much ado, I'm going to leave you to introduce our next guest.
Yes, we don't have much time, so I'll just bring her right up. Her name is Folake Oluokpeyeku. Folake. Representing we have mics already, so we don't need these. Great stuff. All right. So, it's great to have you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Right. So we're just going to allow you to maybe just set the scene for us. Earlier he mentioned that your story of Lagos to America, New York. So just tell us that background in terms of your story and what you're up to now.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I first want to say that I love coming to Afreximbank events because for me, who works in America, this space it's like coming home. It's like a homecoming for me. And I'm glad to commune. I'm happy to commune with my people whenever I get the chance, and unfortunately, it's really rare, and hopefully, because of initiatives like a Global Africa, it will become more rampant. My story. I was one of those who was very fortunate to know what my purpose and my calling was from inception. There's no time in my life that I didn't know that I was meant to be an artist. I was meant to be a performer. But I found myself in Lagos, Nigeria, with not a lot of creative outlets, and certainly we didn't have the creative infrastructure at the time, which meant I had to escape to fulfill my purpose involuntarily. I would rather have stayed home.
Right. So what's been happening to you since you got here to the States?
I came to America when I was 18, and I went to America when I was 18, and I got the opportunity to study and really dive into the craft of acting. And it wasn't an easy journey. It was very lonely, being away from home. But it was also fulfilling in that I found a tribe of artists that I could work with. And fast forward about 20 years, I end up on Bob Hart's Abishola as Abishola, and the first Nigerian to play a Nigerian on primetime television in America.
Awesome. And just so, peradventure, you do not know, that is an American sitcom focused on an African family story. And it's been 5 seasons?
Yes.
So that tells you about the success of it. But tell us a little more about that experience.
Wow, it's been an intensive. It's been an intensive in show business in general. It's when you get to that sort of level, it's less about the acting, but more about using your platform for good. And that has kind of been my mission. How do I give back so that the African economy is benefiting from my talents as well? We do about 22 episodes a year, and we've done that for 5 years. We average about 5 to 6 million viewers a week. That's just in America. And then not to talk about streaming and so on and so forth. It's been an amazing experience. It's been an opportunity for me to showcase Nigerian culture, to give context to our cultural experience, so people who do not necessarily come across Africans or Nigerians have an understanding of who we are and
No
can
doubt.
humanize us.
And what else are you up to in terms of, I imagine that you are into some entrepreneurial pursuits, still in the same creative space, I imagine.
Well, my next, yes, and more actually. So my next project is the new Lion King. I'm playing a
The new Lion King, did you hear that?
Thank you. I'm going to be in Mufasa, and that's coming out December 20th. And I've also started my production company so that we have more agency over our stories.
Lovely,
Yes.
lovely. Great, great, great achievement so far. Congratulations
Thank
to
you.
you. All right, so earlier I was speaking to someone and the person said, in this new media age and all that's happening with technology, we don't have to wait, we don't need permission to create. And so talk to us about the opportunity that you can see Global Africa taking in terms of taking our stories out there and monetizing.
The biggest opportunity that I see in the marketplace right now is a couple of things. One is owning our IP, making sure that the stories that we want to share with the world, we have ownership, and we're not just giving it away. Also, monetizing all the different platforms that exist is a great opportunity for young artists to make income. But on a larger scale, I would like to see banks like this and investors invest in storytellers of color, in African storytellers, African production companies who want to accurately depict our experience, like I want to do with my production company as well. And just the government and business people paying close attention to how they can support artists worldwide. We are the ones who document our history. And I think that a great deal of importance needs to be placed on that.
And I'm sure it hasn't been an easy journey as well, so maybe you can speak to some of the challenges that goes with trying to export our crafts on the global stage.
One of the challenges, I think, is self-love. Us loving ourselves and loving our culture enough to back it with financial support, with logistical support.
But why do you think that's not happening? Is it that...
That's a question I actually have for you guys.
There's a sense that it's risky business, and we haven't established that it is.
Every business is risky. There are riskier businesses than investing in the creative field. If anything, it's less risky. We just want a camera. We want a camera in exotic locations like the Bahamas so we can tell you beautiful stories against beautiful backdrops. Yeah. Africa is too beautiful for Africans not to be telling our stories on the continent the way that we know it should be told, and monetizing it. We should have agency over our stories, and then we should take it out to the world so they get to understand us better.
Very well said. So let's talk a bit about what the successes that we've achieved up to this point mean for the future. So obviously, there's been so much success about the music scene. Nollywood has been exported to the Caribbean, to the world, essentially. And now we're seeing you being in a primetime sitcom. What does all that mean for how the next opportunity for Africa, in your view?
Well, what that means is that there is demand for what we can supply. But then how do we supply in a way that can compete in a global market? I think it's through people like me, who has a platform, who has access. I would like to be an asset to the continent and help bridge the gap between Nollywood, between the creative sector in Africa, and the access that I have in America and the rooms that I've been able to go into. One of the reasons I started my production company is because I've had to go to America to convince people why our stories are worth telling. I don't need to do that. I can come into this room and we can make a plan to tell epic stories, the likes of which we go to movie theaters globally to go see. We have a right to see our faces on those screens.
And no, great point to pause and applaud. So let's talk about your future aspiration. You've talked about the production company, and what else is coming?
Well, my dream is to do a blockbuster project, the likes of Marvel, the likes of DC, but centered around our mythology. That is what I would like to bring to the world next. And I expect you all to support in every way.
No doubt. And you can be sure the Afreximbank will be backing you as you do that. All right, so I did promise that we will be able to go to the audience. So here's your moment. If you do have a question for Folake, you can just raise up your hand and the microphone will be brought to you. I wanted to make this as interactive as possible, and Folake also wanted this. So if you do have a question, comment, some thoughts about what you've heard so far. We have a hand over there.
I also have questions for you guys, though.
All right.
I have my questions.
We're going to take them as well. So can we have a microphone brought over to the lady on the third row here? Please introduce yourself and please keep it brief so we can take more.
Hello, my name is Angela Waneri. My claim to fame, I'm Kanayo's sister. So I've been actually helping out with the Canex creation. I helped a little bit when they were creating the concept. But to answer your questions, one of the things, actually I have a question for you guys. You know, I have a millennial at home who, when I talk about Nigerian movies, kind of rolls her eyes. But I think it's because of the early movies. I think we can all agree that the quality was not great, right? So I think we need to change that with the new generation. And I don't want all that to happen in Hollywood, yeah? So in Africa, can we, how do we change that narrative for the young people that are coming up so that they get as excited as I get when we are creating content and producing it in Africa?
So the narrative of low quality production.
Yes, how do we, because that's how it started, right? I love it. I mean, my age, the fact that we grew organically when you needed to go through the ice on the screen to watch it, but it was okay for us. But now I think it created in those young people an image that is kind of hard to erase. So they're always judging the quality of our movies, and I think it's come a long way. But I think that's the challenge for people, those of you on the stage. How do we change that narrative? Because that's the group that we need to be selling to.
Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, a lot, actually. I grew up in that space. I grew up in the space where in boarding school, when I listened to Daddy Shoki and Daddy Fresh, I didn't tell my friends because they would make fun of me. We admired everything Western, and we didn't admire anything local. I grew up in that world as well, and it wasn't until I left home that I appreciated Nigeria more. There's no place like home. I can't emphasize that enough. No matter, regardless of how much success I've had, being successful at home is the most important thing. Regarding the quality of the projects, I think I have to come back to self-love. We need to shift the mindset. If the children are feeling like what is theirs is not good enough, where is that coming from? Yes, the quality of Nollywood projects have come a long way, but when you really think about the circumstances that they were produced, when the Asaba boys were doing the VHS tapes, that is absolutely innovative. It's pioneering. They pioneered like an entire industry. And I think educating the kids about that is very important. Because what we're able to do and what we do over and over again is that we show how resourceful we are without support from institutions that should be supporting us and creating opportunities for us. So I think the kids need to understand where we're coming from so that they can also, when they see that things can be better, they're invested in helping things get better, as opposed to turning our nose up. But I'll tell you that exposure and coming to the West made me gain more appreciation for Nigeria and everything Nigerian.
Thank you for that. And essentially, there is an ecosystem that needs to be created on the African continent as well. And I guess it will just take time, right?
Yeah, and it doesn't have to take that much time. Again, I'm here to bridge the gap. I'm available. I am available to the African continent, and I want you to consider me an asset, regardless of where you think I am and what levels I've reached. My goal and my loyalty is with Africa, is with home. So, getting us to the place where we can compete on a global market, with our films, with our TV, we're already doing it with music, it's not very hard. I have an army of people in Hollywood who have already asked if they're willing to come to the continent to support, to educate, to train, and every time is a resounding yes.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much for that. Do we have any more questions? Okay, we have two hands on this side. Can we bring the microphone? If we can, give it to the gentleman first, and then to the lady in the first row.
Thank you very much for your very, very inspiring story. I make a connection with Mufasa because I live in Cincinnati. Anytime I walk around Cincinnati with my kente hat, people start calling me Mufasa or Axim or one of those other names. I'm originally from Ghana, and I own a skincare line. It's called True Shade. We have distribution in over 2,000 stores in the United States, including Kroger, Walmart, Target, and etc. So we have massive distribution. We are trying to increase our brand awareness to help us sell the products. So I don't know if you know about Uncle Nearest, but Uncle Nearest is one of the leading whiskey products in the United States right now. What they did was that they used storytelling to blow up their business. Uncle Nearest was the slave master that taught Jack Daniels, for those who know Jack Daniels, how to brew Jack Daniels. He was left out of the story. So the lady came and picked up the story, and she told the story, and Uncle Nearest is today selling $100 million in sales with a $990 million valuation through storytelling. So I'm trying to replicate that. I have written a book titled From Africa to 1,500 Kroger Stores, My American Journey. We donate a portion of all our sales proceeds towards building water wells in Africa. So what we're trying to do is to now use this story to be able to promote our brand. So when I heard you talking about storytelling, it piqued my interest a little bit. What advice do you have for storytelling, or if there's anything that you can help, any nuggets you can give me to help promote our brand?
All right.
I'm an actress. Let me see, promoting your brand. I feel like that's a question for my manager, EJ, right there. I'll say consistency, quality, and always keeping in your mind how to be of service, how to operate from a place of love. That is how I try to live my life, and I try to constantly be in practice of gratitude. I can't offer you business advice.
So what I was talking about, how do you use storytelling to be able to tell the story, not necessarily the brand, the product itself, but from an awareness standpoint, from brand awareness.
How do you use
stories to project a brand?
Exactly. Because storytelling, as we know, is a very, very powerful tool these days. And since you talked about storytelling, I was just thinking that, maybe actress.
You mean in terms of technology you can use, platforms you can use to tell those stories?
Exactly. So.
I don't think I'm equipped to answer this question. Oh, it's a question for her.
To chime in? Oh, okay. You want to help her out?
I'll help him out. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bodine Victoria. I'm an actress, entertainer from the Bahamas. I do a lot of commercial work here. And so what I would... And so to answer your question, when we talk about storytelling, the first question is, who are the people that you are trying to target? When you tell a story, you're trying to connect with people that share the same goals and the values. So as long as you know what the goals and the values and the story is behind your product, and you are able to make a connection with your client base, with those persons, you go into those communities, you see exactly what it is that they like to experience, and you bond your story with their experiences. You let them see themselves reflected in your story. You tell that story of struggle. You tell that story of triumph. You connect them emotionally to what your brand is. You hire people within the creative industry that can tell that story in a way that's in alignment with your goals and your brands. You saturate the market where those people are. So it's not just digital. It is actually being face-to-face with the people that you are serving through your product. But more importantly, it's about letting them see, like she said, Folake, your heart. It's letting them see how much work and effort you put into it, and letting them see that they too can experience this level of success if you two do this together. That's how to market your project.
Thank you very much. And thank you for the applause as well. We have a question on the front row. Please go ahead.
Hello, my name is Ugochi Nwoga. I am the owner of Ovico Gallery, which is an African contemporary art gallery located in St. Augustine, Florida. We feature a renowned artist named Chike Onora, who is based in Nigeria. Now, one of the things that we have had to navigate is, speaking of storytelling, catching people up to the caliber of artists and not allowing people, because they may be newly exposed to this artist, to sort of bring it down. And so for you, Folake, in Bob Love's Abishola, which was one of my favorite shows, and I'm so sad to see it go, how much creative control did you have in telling the story on the show? And what challenges arose throughout the process, and how did you navigate them to be able to keep the story as rich and relevant as it was?
My role on the show was to be a blank canvas. That's how I look at acting. I'm giving a script, and my expertise is my versatility. That's what I'm known for. Once I'm given a script, it's then to understand what the writers are trying to get across. In this particular instance, I had the lived experience of actually being a Nigerian Yoruba woman, same as Abishola, who moved to America. So we had that similarity, and nobody else on my production had that. I was the only one. So I had complete agency and license in how I fashioned her. Where we had some challenges is, this was obviously an American sitcom. This was not a Nigerian project, and it was made for the American audience primarily. And in America, the sitcom has a very specific rhythm, and that rhythm doesn't match the African comedic rhythm. And so the challenge for me was staying authentic with the accent as much as I could, while still observing those rhythms, which were, it was challenging sometimes, and there were a few times when we had to have dialogue and conversation about why it doesn't make sense for me to say things this way. And sometimes I won that argument, and sometimes I didn't. It was always a conversation, though, and at the end of the day, compromise had to be made. So I've been asked a few times, like, why is my Niger accent not really Niger accenting in the role? And that's because I was specifically sometimes given instructions. This word sounds, well, doesn't sound, well, you need to enunciate it a little bit. Right. Do this particular word in an American accent. And so we had that dance, but all in all, it was always done respectfully. And it was obvious that authenticity was something that was important to the project. And I'm glad I was able to bring it with the lived experience that I had.
Great. Thank you for sharing that story. All right. We have a hand right here in front. Do we have any other hands in the room? Okay, we have one back there as well, and one back there. So please go ahead, sir. Can we have a microphone here?
For you?
You did say you have some questions as well, so maybe you
Yeah,
throw
I
it out.
kind of want to know who's in the room.
Can
Do
you-
we have government officials, business people, other artists? I know we have an artist
Well,
there. We
I
have
can
two
certainly
artists there.
spot.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. My name is Mahesh Kotaj. I'm a banker. So,
There you go.
coming from a banker, you would expect a rather crazy question. But as an artist, I have written a book. Actually, it's about. It shares what you mentioned, which resonates with me, which is the love that leads to your artistry. So mine is about growing up in Uganda and becoming a banker on Wall Street. So it's called The River Finds Its Course. But leave that aside. My question to you is, how did you manage to feel the love that you have, that you express so deeply, and that yet you have been separated from your country for so long? How do you reconcile the separation, the alienation that feels deeply, I'm sure, in your heart, with the continuing motivation to use it as a source of your strength?
That really comes down to the spark that I was born with, this knowledge that I had been sent here to do something. And again, it was very clear to me. It was the loudest voice in my head. It was louder than anything. And it came at great sacrifice, like I said. But what helped me get through, first of all, was boarding house. I was in boarding school from 10 to 16. And so having lived so much of my life away from my family, the move was easier. But as I gained success and my dreams were coming true, then that longing for family, that then resurfaced. That resurfaced for the first time in my life, actually. And it required me to spend a lot of meditative time with myself and really think about the things that are important to me and how to create a work-life balance where I'm still able to achieve my dreams and fulfill my purpose, but still come home to spaces like this. And that's why, going back to what I said initially, these spaces are so important to me because I don't get to see these faces. I don't get to commune with my people. And so it's been hard, and it's just tenacity and drive that makes me like dig my heels down and focus on my work, because I know ultimately the work that I'm doing will connect back to you guys. And through my work, infusing love in my work allows me to commune with you all remotely, globally, millions of you at a time, in a way that's much more impactful than if you had stayed home. So it's a sacrifice, but it's also rewarding as well. And that's what I think about when I do the work.
I think that deserves an applause. Thank you very much for sharing that. Over there, thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Alana Major. I am the principal of Avanti Insurance Brokers. Firstly,
Raise
congratulations.
the mic up a little bit so we can hear you.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Alana Major. I am the principal of Avanti Insurance Brokers. So firstly, congratulations on all of your success.
Thank you.
I'm very proud of your achievements and of the direction that you're going in terms of how you want to represent Africa the way that you do. My question is, with your incorporation of what's happening here in the Caribbean, what are your plans to make sure that the Caribbean story is also told and intertwined on a regular basis with the story of Africa? And how do you encourage other Caribbean talents and resources to get involved so that the global story of Africa and the Caribbean intertwine is also told?
Well, it's through the stories. It's through the IPs and the properties that we choose to produce. And once we have funding for these stories, making sure that authenticity and accuracy is the goal. Making sure that we have representatives of each culture that is being depicted also being represented on the other side of the camera. So in the writing staff, in the production staff, costume, in all the departments that it takes to put a project together, making sure that we have representatives there. Having been on my show for 5 years, I know that the only way to guarantee that everyone is represented is if we have a seat on the table to tell these stories. So that's how.
Thank you for that. All right, there's a hand over there. And any other hands? So we know where to go next. There is a hand up here in front, and there's one on that side. So, yeah, let's go here first.
Hi, and well done, Bishola Folake. My name is Jeremy, and I work for Development Bank of Nigeria. So first, well done with the work you're doing. We're very proud of what you're doing. You know, my question is a bit quite sensitive, but I think it's an important conversation to have. Now, if we look back at the African story, it is impossible for us to have gone through what we have gone through. Our forefathers have been through what they've been through without hope, faith, and belief. And for me, that hope and belief over the years is deep-rooted in our spirituality. And that's why if you see Africans, we so much believe and we have faith, and that really guides our values. And that values is what we're hoping we continue to showcase and tell the world. Now, with your position and with your roots, when you're going to the West, and you know the West, they have, there's a lot of messaging that is being passed through right now. Even our kids now, you know, we're watching TVs, and you're careful what your kids watch because of the kind of messaging that is being passed to the West. And I don't have to be explicit in terms of those kind of messaging. You know it. Now, my question is, do you think partnerships like this is critical to how we defend the African values and what we hold dear when we go on the big screen? Because I guess when you are pitching in those rooms and these guys are funding it, there are certain messaging that they probably want you to pass, you know, across, which perhaps maybe you don't believe in it and you want to, you know, sort of align. But if we are funding our own project, do you believe that that is a great avenue for us to defend what we hold dear as Africans and the values that we hold dear as a people? And that's the question I want you to answer. Thank you.
The applause even before the response.
Yeah.
Seems to resonate.
You know, I made a decision to actually go back to school because I wanted to trace our lineage back, way back to before there was any colonial influence, before we even had the word Africa. How did we refer to ourselves? So, and who were we? What are the names we chose for ourselves? Not the Portuguese names, not the names that sound similar to other derogatory terms that have been placed on us. But really understanding who we were. And when you talk about African values, I wonder what that is. Because do we know where our values start? And by our values, I'm not necessarily talking about African values. I'm talking about the values of people that look like us, who have the same or similar melanin count as us. Because where does the term Africa start from? Do you know? Where did it originate? Is that our word? So when you say African values, I don't really know what you're talking about. And then when you talk about messaging, I think it's important that at all times the focus should always be about love and acceptance. I don't think anyone wants to change anyone's opinion or beliefs about how they live their lives, but we all want to be able to live our lives with the same rights. I almost want you to be explicit so I know exactly what you're talking about, but being vague about African values, I appreciate our traditions. I appreciate our spirituality. And are we talking about Christian? Are we talking about Muslim? Are we talking about traditional? I know I grew up with traditional religion being demonized. I don't think that should be the case. So when you're talking about African values, I don't really know exactly what you're speaking about, but I do know that acceptance and love needs to be at the root of everything we do. especially starting with ourselves.
I totally agree. You've got another question here. And can I ask actually for the questions to be shorter than the answers this time? Because I think that one was pretty long.
We actually have less than 5 minutes to wrap this up.
Hi, I'm Erlene Camille, a producer and TV host here from the Bahamas. My question is around owning our creative content. As we go down, throughout the journey of producing and releasing, let's say I come before a network that wants to bargain with me for some control of the creative process. As far as I'm concerned, I should own my content and that process. Can you give me tips on how to maintain that throughout this, journey?
That feels like a case-by-case situation. And because of where we sit right now, it might be important to negotiate with the future in mind. So perhaps not completely selling over your IP, but licensing it for a short amount of time until you get traction, and then demanding that you always have ownership. You can also choose to be firm in your beliefs, and you are entitled to it. And I feel like once you've made a decision like that, that forces align itself to support you in your mission. But I think it's important what you are focused on, ownership of IP. We should retain ownership of our stories. We should not be mined in the way that we've been mined for the last hundreds of years. And the thing about ownership is that it builds generational wealth. So that can be a delicate dance, depending on your positioning on a project-by-project basis. But I think you have your mind in the right space. Ownership is very important, and it should not be taken lightly at all.
Thank you. One last question. Unfortunately, we have to wrap.
Sure, that's really quick. Thank you very much, Afreximbank, for providing this forum. My name's Leslie Vanderpool. I'm the founder and executive director of the Bahamas International Film Festival. And if you feel at home here amongst...
I do.
Then you have to come back to the Bahamas International Film Festival as one of our panelists or masterclass in acting.
It will be very easy to get me back to come.
Sounds like it's done.
Talk to EJ.
All right. Okay, that was quick. We can take one more. Let's go all the way to where? Yeah,
I have the mic.
Gentleman back there, right? Okay. The gentleman back there, please. The gentleman back there. Okay, someone has the mic already.
Greetings to everybody. My name is Kenrich Cairo. I'm a documentary filmmaker from Suriname. My question is, I'm a Maroon, and we have tribes in Suriname. My documentaries mostly are about culture and spirituality. How much do we give the outside world that's paying for it in terms of setting out our stories? That's my question.
Can you repeat that?
I think he's speaking to the delicate dance of the message you want to pass on and the production company or whoever is going to help to execute that. How do you manage that to ensure that what you're trying to do is it stays as authentic as you want it to be?
That's the question, isn't it?
That's the question, ma'am. That's the question.
The question is, you want to know how you can make sure that your stories are told exactly as you want it to.
As we want to, and specifically, actually my first language is Dutch, so my English is not that perfect. My question is specific about the spirituality, because we have certain things we do. How much do we give the world that is paying actually for our story?
Mic check, 1 2 1 2.
How much do we give the world of our spirituality? Is that what you're asking? Well, I think you can tap into your intuition for that. Intuition is something that I love because it's guided me throughout my journey. Even when I didn't listen, it was obvious where it was guiding me. So intuitively, you will know how much you need to infuse into your story, how much of your spiritualities needs to be infused into your story, and then you stick by that.
We really have to wrap now. I unfortunately cannot take that question, so we really have to just thank Folake for spending some time with us. Please put your hands together for her.
It's not a question.
It's not
a question, it's just one statement.
Okay, go ahead, sir. Very brief.
I'm Dan Babu from Uganda, retired banker, but anthropologist by nature. I just want to go back to the gentleman of Nigerian Development Bank. Actually, all this, what has been created is to think that what existed pre-Africa, pre-colonial in Africa is not documented. It's very well documented, and the values talking about, actually, if you sat down, I can actually give you a whole template with few variations.
Okay, I'm under pressure to wrap this up, but thank you for that. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us for this. Another round of applause for Folake. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Wale.
Back
Her
to Mark.
show is called Bob Hearts Abishola, and I think AAM Hearts Folake, right? Okay. Wow. I told you Afrexim Fest is happening at 7:30 tonight at the New Providence Hall, and the final penultimate speaker is going to headline together with Flavor from Nigeria. Who likes Flavor from Nigeria? Yeah. Okay, well, your moderator for this final conversation, and I want to hear, I know it's been a long 3 days, but come on, what you've got left in the tank, I want to hear you to roar at this, because he is really a legend. Your moderator first for this session is going to bring him on in a moment. Your moderator is Omar Ben Yedder, Group Publisher and Managing Director of IC Publications. You saw him earlier. He's going to bring on your final conversationalist, who is going to close with a red bow AAM 2024. So I want you to give a big shout. He's a legendary musician. He's a rapper. He's a producer. He's a businessman. There's probably not a generation alive that doesn't know this 7-time platinum and 3-time Grammy Award winner, Wyclef Jean.
How's everybody doing? Looks like I gotta wake everybody up. Ready or not, here I come. Hey, that's later. I'll perform later. No. How are you, mate?
Thank you. I'm great, Wyclef. Good. It's great to have you here.
It's great to be here. I'm in the Bahamas. All my African brothers and sisters, the Caribbean. This is amazing. As you can see, I'm dressed for the occasion.
Well, it's a bit windy out there, actually, but...
That's what we do, the Caribbean. We bring the sun out. Even when it's windy, we stay sunny, baby.
I can see.
You dig?
So, Wyclef, so when I was reading about you, obviously we all know that you're from Haiti. And when I started working at our group, our editor used to have a lot of articles on Haiti. And I used to say, why are they writing on Haiti? Why Haiti? Why Haiti? This is back in 2006, 2007, obviously after the earthquake in 2010 as well. And then I started reading what our guys were writing, and there was an editorial that says, why we owe a debt to Haiti. And obviously, I think history is extremely important. Over the past 3 days, people have been saying, if you don't know your history, you don't know your future. So I think the quote was, the future without history is like a tree without roots. And when I was reading about Haiti and what we were saying here, is that when Haiti claimed independence back in the 1800s, obviously the French, Haiti was providing a quarter of French global profits, basically. So the French weren't particularly happy. Then they had to pay a debt to gain their independence, which today would be worth something like $22 billion. And what Haiti did as well is it welcomed all slaves to Haiti to be free, basically. And what they also did is they paid captains of boats at the time from Holland, from the UK, from Portugal, from Spain. They said, we would pay $40 more or less for every person that you bring here to freedom. So basically, our freedom, to some extent, is thanks to the message that the Haitians managed to give to the world and to Africans. So I think Haiti deserves a round of applause, and this is why we should never forget about Haiti. We need each other more than ever today. And I think it's very important when we saw what the Kenyan government did recently to say we will support Haiti because Haiti is part of Africa, it's part of our heritage. So I want you to tell the world why Haiti is important. Obviously, you're a presidential candidate as well, so you care about your country, you cry for your country, but why this solidarity, global solidarity and global humanity is important to us, and why we should always look at this global Africa and this global solidarity.
All right, so thank you so much. Okay, so I'm gonna tell y'all like this. So I left Haiti when I was like 9. I'm from extreme poverty, like the hut. When I got to Brooklyn and I got to the projects, and my man, somebody stepped on his sneakers and he was complaining, I was like, man, you don't know how good you got it in America, man. You complaining over some sneakers? I remember 50 days not wearing those shoes. I say this to tell you, even though I was in extreme poverty, I lived through my imagination and through my dreams. So it's very important. One thing I was against was when I see NGOs used to post pictures. And these pictures, before we had the new brand of what's Africa today, it was just all you just would see is a child crying of starvation. And I said, well, I'm similar to the same child. I've cried, but it wasn't for starvation. I was crying because I needed somebody to not only hear us and not come and bring us the rice, we needed them to bring us the fertilizer, the seed, the machinery. This is at a very young age, right? Now you said something earlier, you said you don't know where you're going unless you know where you're from. So I am from Africa, right? So, and at a very young age, that is instilled in me. And when I did my DNA test, it traced back to heaven. Because I was like, why am I so defiant? Why am I so tough? Why am I so sexy? Why am I so good looking? But like, why is my bone so strong? And I was like, man. And then when I traced it back, it traced straight back to Nigeria.
No, not Nigeria.
It's not, I'm just telling you. It's not, no, and I ain't saying that because we got a lot of Nigerian, you know. Because you could see my forehead, you know. No. Yeah. So in just saying this, now we talk about Haiti. So, and we talk about the fact of the French and the reparation. We always talk about that. And we talk about Haiti being the first black republic with the general Toussaint Louverture. But there's another part of Haiti I want to add to the conversation. The unification of the Caribbean. Now watch this. A lot of people might not know, in the Haitian Revolution, we always talk of Toussaint Louverture, Jean-Jacques Dessalines. But let me give you another character. His name is Boukman. Remember this name, Boukman, right? So because you would not have this revolution if Boukman didn't inspire it. Now, Boukman was a Jamaican. Boukman was from Jamaica at a young age going to Haiti. So I say this to tell you the future of the Caribbean is in the hands of Africa. Now, let me even go a step deeper with you. I live in a space of physical and metaphysical. So a lot of people say, man, how come a lot of leaders in the Caribbean have not advanced? They used to ask me that when I had my group, the Fujis, short for refugees. I say, until the Caribbean recognizes Africa as a superpower, it can advance. So in saying that, I think that as we move forward, what I look forward in Haiti is the complete narrative, not a narrative of one situation. Don't tell me just about what's going on in the gangs. Tell me about the robotics program where kids are building robots in Jacmel in Haiti. Don't just tell me about the kidnapping. tell me about the farmers that we need to galvanize, the 30,000 farmers to start to set up trade when Haiti was known for exporting a big amount of sugar and coffee through the entire Caribbean. So these are some of the narratives that I would like to see. One time, two time. Okay, I will, my brother. Haitian? Are you Haitian, my brother? Okay, my brother. I thought you was a rapper for a second. Let's not break up the interview, man. He's doing the interview, man. I got you, though. We could talk about the canal, but give him a minute. Go ahead.
No, and I saw your post on the robotics, actually, which was very interesting, and great things are happening despite what we may see in the news. So that's brilliant. But I wanted to, you spoke about we won't develop unless we recognize the global importance and the global power of Africa. But when you talked about your musical influences, you spoke of Bob Marley, Bob Dylan, and Jimi Hendrix. So today, if you're growing up in Brooklyn, would you hear African influences in terms of music? Do you think that's what's driving the music scene in America, or are we still excluded from the global music scene?
No, Africa has always been the scene, right? Fela Kuti. Like, you see the American, there's a documentary, I don't know if you ever seen it, Rumble in the Jungle, where, you know, Ali's gonna do the fight. But did you see Tina Turner and everybody? You saw how they was going to Africa. And did you see when Tina Turner came back, did you see how she was moving and how she was dancing? Did you see how the boys in America thought they got the funk? And then they went down to Africa. They said, man, this is a different kind of funk. We need to come back to that. What I have seen is a reinvention through culture. So I'll give you an example. Fugees, my group, is short for refugees. We said, man, we're gonna take the word refugees and we're gonna take people with no voices and we're gonna give them a voice. So now what has the young youth done in Africa? They have rebranded Africa now. So what they say is Africa's fly, Africa's beautiful. Let me tell you, my daughter is 19 years old. She lives in the highest suburbs you could think of. And she speaks pidgin English. I've never seen that before. You got kids, you got now kids in Mississippi, Kentucky, singing like literally, and they sing in the pidgin English like it's patois. So what I've seen is a reinvention of the new generation on how, say like, I'm from a hip hop generation, how we have reinvented hip hop. Now throughout the entire Africa, they have reinvented the branding, not just through music, through film, through science, through all forms of culture and art. That's what we're seeing today, right? Think about it. Virgil, who passed away, right? Yeah. An amazing eye, right? So even through fashion, Africa has this influence. But I have to tell you, man, Africa has always had this influence, right? What it is you don't give people credit for what they do because you just steal it. But in time, the truth always reveals itself.
And so coming to your daughter, Angelina.
Angelina, that's really my daughter name.
I know.
Angelina.
Yeah. So, but I mean, did that influence come from you, or it came from social media? I mean, what attracted her to the continent and the music of the continent and pidgin English and the films and creativity?
Well, I mean, her dad's Wyclef Jean, right? So I don't play when it comes to music. I show her the whole foundation of the music. I would just say it's a phenomenon, right? So I remember when we had the British invasion in America, you know what I'm saying to you? And we was just like, let's dance, put on your red shoes on, dance the blues, you know what I'm saying? Now it's the Afro beats invasion. That's all it is. It means that this is the music that don't just control America. It's the music of the world. It has invaded. This is what happens. Every genre at times have what's called an invasion of the music and the culture. So that is what's happening. And then because of technology, you have more combinations now, right? So you can have an artist like Drake who would do a combination, but let me take you back to the beginning. So you have Wyclef Jean in Nigeria, I show up in Lagos. It's Two-Face. It's D'banj. It's Sound So Tan. It's Wyclef. So these boys are like some of the fathers of what I saw happen within the next generation with the Burna Boys and the DeVitos and the WizKid. You know, it's beautiful.
So there is a connection between the diaspora and the continent now. You can see it, you can feel it.
The social media has cut borders. So there's no border. Like literally, there's no such thing no more. Through the music, the connection hits it right on the dot. Through the TikTok, through the Instagram, through the Facebook, through the Twitter, YouTube also.
And so you're obviously a producer, a songwriter, an investor, a humanitarian, presidential candidate. But let's stick to the business side of things.
I was also a model back in the days.
Still are. The looks are there.
All right, cool. Just want you to know, man.
Those Nigerian looks.
I don't want you to, like, mess up the look, man.
Yes. So you throw me off. No, but on the business side, on the business side of things, no, it's extremely important actually in terms of intellectual property.
Yes, sir.
I mean, what advice do you give those new musicians, especially those on the continent? Because ultimately you speak about the YouTubes, the Facebooks, the Twitters, the TikToks. Those are the guys who are actually owning not the intellectual property, but owning the business side of things at least.
All right. So what I can say, and I've always said that, all my friends have heard me say this. I said, if Elon Musk does what he does and Jay-Z does what he does, there's no way I can't do what I want to do. But I didn't want to do it in the States. I wanted to merge the Caribbean and Africa. Now let me explain to you what I mean. The data that you consume just on film alone, Africa runs over 20% of the movie industry. This is a big thing. I'm talking about billions of dollars. I'm saying every other movie on Netflix is an African movie. Every other movie. Every other movie. So then, stay with me. Let's go back for a minute. I remember going to South Africa, meeting Nelson Mandela. And I met Nelson Mandela more than once, but one time I got to meet Nelson Mandela, and all I think about was how when he came out, he started investing in the arts and in the culture, right? Because art and culture is currency. So I think that if we really form a union, why can't we have our own Viacom? Right? Because what happens is you can have one person doing a streaming service, then another person trying to do a film, right? But they don't have that billions of dollars of capital that these bigger boys have. So what they end up doing is selling their content for absolutely nothing. So then we can't progress with generational wealth. We just keep making other people rich. And that has to stop, right? So in order for that to stop now, we have to say, okay, let's form our own TikTok. Let's form our own YouTube. Not as a separation, as a whole, putting the Tao together and saying we're gonna be one. This is very important. Now, to all of the young artists that's watching this, because every time I speak, it go viral, you know what I'm saying? So all of the young artists that's watching this, watching Uncle Wyclef now, because I'm an uncle now, I'm an old man, I'm 54. So all of these young artists, yeah, black don't crack. All of these young artists that's watching Uncle Wyclef, so let's talk about intellectual property. So we hear this song, Hips Don't Lie. Bam, 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 and then Shakira is singing and she's dancing. We hear...
You wrote the song, huh? She just danced and sang it.
Yeah, I wrote the song 2 years before Shakira, and it was in a movie, Havana Nights. I used it for Shakira for a remix. Carlos Santana, Maria Maria, 911, the list goes on and on and on. So my power is in my catalog. And all of the young artists, let me tell you this. This is a cool story. So we watching the Super Bowl, and then Rihanna come on the Super Bowl. You know what I'm saying? And if Rihanna watching it, she knows she was on the Super Bowl, and boom, wow, 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 wow. What up, Riri? Wow, right? And so my daughter is sitting, and boom, 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 and she looks at me, and we watching the Super Bowl, and she says, "Dad, are we getting paid for this?" Right? You see how I teach you at a young age? So at a very young age, I told her that's called intellectual property. And that means that when you own it, the NFL has to call you. You have to give the license. So what I want all of the youth to understand is your power is in your intellectual property. Do not give your property away, because this is your real estate of the future. Very important.
So I still don't know how we can own and capture our own revenues. I mean, the digital companies are still monopolizing it, and I still don't see ourselves competing with a Google or a Facebook right now. What we need to do is, how do we still capture the money and use their platforms?
Well, I think that you're looking at it. Let me tell you how my lens look at it. So my lens look at it like this: organization of data. First of all, Jeff Bezos, that's my homie if he watching this, but Jeff Bezos don't know more about music than me. He don't know more about film than me, but he got Amazon Music and Amazon Film. But let's go back. How did it start? It started with the organization of data, right? So let's organize these books. Let's find a way to get these goods to these people, right? Let's digitize that, right? So I can sit here and give you just one idea of organization of data. We can start that with remittance, digital remittance companies around the world. Because when you look at it, if we put just Haiti alone, the remittance for a year is $4.5 billion within, right? So don't look at it from the lens of a music. Look at it from the lens of what kind of technology can we create to start to monetize, to start to research our data, and build a technology company. Music, film, and all of that is under that, but we have to, so everything starts with currency, like in trade, right? You'd agree with that. So at the end of the day, if I'm looking at it and I say, you could take Mexico, for example, the amount of remittance. We in the diaspora, we send money home. When we send money home, that money gets taxed to go home. We're the ones that pay that. So at the end of the day, why are we not unifying ourselves together and saying, we want our own remittance company, right? We're doing digital banks, and I understand that in investments, we're bringing investments, but let's not look at it as entertainment. Let's look at it as currency. So I want to see us from a level of thinking of it from a technology aspect, not from a level of, we got to own our own music, because that's going to come.
So the business model is changing. We don't have to own our own studios. We need to own the technology behind it.
You don't need to own your own studios. Look, the best application is an application to an application. So what it is if Google already exists, right? Oh, FYI, I am a engineer. I'm a consultant for Google DeepMinds, like engineering team. Flex, right? So I only say that because when you was like with the Googles and all of that, but at the end of the day, even though Google is Google, the DeepMind team comes in and works with Google. If we create something which is the next level of technology, we can partner up with Google. But did you hear the word I said? We can partner up with Google. That's the difference.
So we've been selling ourselves a little bit too cheaply, you feel?
That's an understatement. We are the power. We are the currency. We culture. We everything. I'm saying this is the truth. The way we dress, the way we talk, the inventions This is all coming from us. Let me show you, even the politics is coming from us. Look, before I came in here, here's another, and I don't mean to tell jokes, but I'm funny. So listen, yo, I'm gonna show you the power. Before I came in here, they was like, yo, Wyclef, come take this picture with this governor. Man, I never seen this governor in my life. There you go, that's the governor. Yo, and that governor, right? After I took the picture with the governor, I was like, yo, don't worry about it. You're gonna win the election, right? And I didn't even know the governor, but you my man though. I only say that, right, to show you the power that we have as entertainers, right? And this has to be translated into currency, right? Cultural currency is the crude oil moving forward. And this is the most important thing I want us to rock about.
Fantastic. I'm going to open it up to the floor now, but I've got a few quick fire questions. Lauren or Shakira?
So I just...
Wrong answer.
No. I have to be very careful here. So her name not Lauren no more. It's Miss Hill. So don't get me yelled at because I got to go back on a Fuji tour after this. I saw, so Miss Hill or Shakira? Miss Hill.
Fantastic. Soccer or American football?
First of all, homie, soccer, I don't even know what that word means. You mean football or football? I come from Haiti, man. I definitely say football in the terms of the terminology of soccer. I think what I like about football, coming from like a third world island, is just a sport that we all can pick up without having anything.
Brooklyn or Port-au-Prince?
Port-au-Prince.
Global Africa or Global Africa?
Global Africa.
So we'll open up to the floor. I'm sure there's many questions. Are there roaming mics there?
Okay. Yes. Okay, my man. Let me. It looks like I got to do this part. Don't worry, I got you. I have many jobs. I'm a West Indian. I have many jobs. Okay, hold on. So, don't worry. I'll do it for you.
You're looking great.
I had 30 jobs. You know, it's fine. Okay, how are you, my friend? What is your exact question about the canal, please?
My name is Ralph Belton. I'm president of a group called CEN Haiti. We actually are a sort of an NGO that source money for working in Haiti on various projects. Our latest one is trying to get the canal going and to support that effort. The canal has to do with moving water to areas where we can grow food more controlled than depending on the weather. There has been a problem with the DR not wanting it to happen, but the local people have been able to source the money, the professionals, and the energy to actually build the canal, despite of what the DR says. I wanted you to tell me what you thought about it.
I think we should invest in the canal. Yes, 100% we should invest in the canal. Okay, but I got to be fair. Hold on.
A lady, please.
I know,
but you got one at the front.
We're going to go to a woman and we'll come right back to you. Don't tell me Africa. We're from Africa. I hear it. Oh, I'm too bad. We're going to the woman and we come back to the man. Well, respect. Hold on. I got you. Hold on. Hey, yeah.
Hi, Wyclef. A pleasure. My name is Nikia DeVoe Christie, just a Bahamian passionate about culture. So what would you say to Caribbean people trying to make it big with music? I know a lot of people have been told you need to tone down to become more mainstream. We have beautiful music in the Bahamas. Jamaica has done a good job. Trinidad is getting there. And the continent of Africa has shown us that you don't have to tone it down. They are singing in their native languages, they're using their slang, and it's really taking over the world. What would you say to Bahamian musicians who are trying to break it into mainstream?
Be authentic and be yourself, because people will find you. Africa never been, they remained themselves and they stayed true to themselves. It wasn't like, they was like, oh, let's do the music that's coming out of Jamaica, because you're in a big world. Commercialism now, just so you know, what's big now is not in America. It's all outside of America. So we used to like chase music and be like, oh, let's bring music to America. Now you have to do music so that it's culturally relevant to the world. And Bahamian music, y'all got that Junkanun, right? Yo, that Junkanun is crazy. I love, see, I know about the Junkanun, right? Yes.
I can teach you some moves.
All right. All right. Leah, tell y'all teach me some moves. All right. Pleasure's mine. All right, my brother.
My name is Selassie, and I lead a team called BIDEC. Basically, we promote art and heritage and culture. So my question to you is, growing up when I was a kid, you were one of the people we watch on TV, and you inspire many creatives across the world. My question to you is, we've seen Afreximbank bring businesses to the Caribbean. When are we going to see Wycliffe Jean in Lagos or in Accra or Joburg having partnerships with artists like Stoneboy, like Shatta Wale, like Burna Boy, and so on and so forth?
Well, I want to be part. First of all, thank you for making me feel old. Sit down. So, I got you. So, to your point, what I would like to do, we talked about it, I want to merge with like the biggest business people. And I think what we have to do is create a big platform. And with this platform, now we have the Burna Boys and different artists. But how do we get artists to own their IP and then moving forward? So I want to be part of this Caribbean African movement in the sense of not just the music, but what we talked about earlier, the business of ownership as we move forward. Not just the music, owning the publishing, owning the IP, owning those companies. All right. Am I doing okay?
One more.
Okay. Here we go. You got to let me know, big boss.
No, don't worry.
All right. Say one more. All right, hold on.
I don't actually have a question. I have a gift.
Oh, you don't have a question, you have a gift.
And I also want to represent some of the Haitian young people that I work with who are creative entrepreneurs. We just ran an accelerator with them, and they have been the most avid, determined, and focused young men and women, and are creating products that are remarkable. And so I just wanted to give credit to them. My name is Maria Alvaro, and this is a book on Haiti that we've done through our company.
All right, this is amazing, and definitely, we'll get the last question. This is amazing. You got to make sure you tag me on Instagram. Okay, here you go.
Hello, Wycliffe. It's a pleasure. My name is Princess Pratt, and I am a storyteller, folklorist, and cultural curator here. And you spoke about partnerships, right, with Google. How accessible are these partnerships for persons like myself that don't have a big capital, right? How accessible are these partnerships for up-and-coming creators? Do I have to have a big capital in order to access a partnership with Google? Or is the process for persons like myself a bit easier? Can you help me out with that?
I'll help you out. You could sit down. You're very fly. I like the clothes. So I don't want to break the rules, he said, the time. I'm so sorry. So this literally is going to be the last question. So the question was, do you have to basically be big to have a partnership? So this is what I want to tell you. A partnership starts off with a great idea, right? You have to find a good idea, and then you have to put it down on paper. So this is the first thing. Creatives all around the world, and everybody say they got a good idea. But how good is your idea, right? If you feel that you have the best idea in the world, put it on paper. Because companies like Google, companies like Amazon, the new company that we about to build in this room that's gonna take out Amazon, these companies, what we're doing is we're looking for great minds. So as long as you have great ideas, put them down on paper and nothing can stop you. You have to network and look for it. Thank you.
Fantastic, thank you. So I've got two last questions. So one is about, you mentioned your age, but ultimately it's about longevity. And when I look at what you've done over the past, I was listening to the Fugees back in 1994, I think it was. I was listening to the Carnival in 1997, I think it was. So I mean, longevity, how I mean, how have you done it? What's the secret?
You was in high school too, right, when the Fugees came out? Or was you like in elementary?
Sorry?
Was you in...
No, I'm actually not far off you. I'm 49 today, actually. It's my birthday.
Okay, you're still a baby. Happy birthday, man. What's your name?
Omar.
Omar? Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday to ya. Happy Omar. All right, make some noise for Omar. It's his B-Day, huh? Happy birthday, man. So, the key to longevity. Okay, so remember, I'm going to tell you something. My grandfather, my mama ain't going to like what I'm about to say. She'd be like, don't talk about that. My grandfather was a voodoo priest. Yes, Wyclef's young grandfather was a voodoo priest. Be careful, I'll turn all of y'all into chickens in here. So, and listen to this, right? And then my father, now watch this, my father at 18 years old in Haiti, he was passing in front of a church. And he said he heard the voice of God. He went in the church, he became a minister, right? And when he became a minister, he had a gift of preaching where missionaries came and got him from Haiti, gave him a visa to come preach in America. He left us in Haiti. He came and got me from Haiti. Then I went to school in Brooklyn, and then in New Jersey, most of my friends were Muslims, right? So we had the mosque. So one thing I can tell you about all of what I just told you is my success in longevity and always smiling and making people feel happy. And no matter what the bad day you feel like you're going to, the realm of spirituality. So at the end of the day, connect with yourself, find your peace, don't forget your history, because in spirituality, it will keep you sane, right? And then I'm living proof of that, you know what I'm saying?
I mean, are you rapping right now, or?
Nah, but I might make a song like that.
So, and the last question really is, you said in life people have 3 peaks. You said your first peak was with the Fugees. Your second peak was with presidential candidacy.
Okay, yeah, but you see my peaks though. Like Wyclef don't play. Like my peaks be crazy. My first peak was with the Fugees, and I said I wanted to be the world's biggest producer. So if you call Beyonce, right? You don't have Beyonce's number, okay. But if you had a number and you call her, she gonna tell you, yeah, Wyclef, he the one who started us, right? And that goes endless, endless, endless. So I topped every record you could think about. You know, I just don't rap about it. Today in my house, I got plaques for 1 billion streams. And I started off with a cassette. Do you know how hard it is? 1994 to the stream, that's one. My second run, man, I shook the world. You know how I shook them? I shook them because when I was looking at all of the NGOs in my country, I said, I'm gonna create the world's biggest NGO ever. And I said, my NGO, I want to be like FEMA. This is before FEMA. I said, I want us to have helicopters. I want us to have boats. So by the time Red Cross and everybody come in, versus it being 10,000 disasters, maybe it'll just be 1,000. Yo, in that process, I guess long before I was born, one man's disaster is another man's gain. So they try to take me out. Yo, man, Wyclef stole money from his country, right? And then what did I do after that? I ran for president, because you can't define me. Man, you would think I was trying to be president of America at the time. And I think with everyone here hearing me speak now, they're actually like, whoa, this guy actually could have been president of Haiti. He's actually smart. You know, before that, they probably be like, oh man, another rapper, he's gonna come in here, smoke some weed and talk crap, right? So now, my third peak, I want us to be on the level of Mansa Musa. Like, we need to, you see, because these are the names I want to talk about. I want to see how can we form our own technology companies now. So I want to be part of galvanizing with the new group. We need our own Nollywood, like on a whole nother level. You need your own, you know, everything is happening in South Africa, amazing things all around the world. But can you imagine if we unified and then we just said we're going to be one clamp and one force? You know what I'm saying to you? Then we become.
Ladies and gentlemen, Wycliffe Jean.
Yeah, Wycliffe Jean!
Thank you.
Another big round of applause, please. He's going to be your headliner at Afrexim Fest. Woo! Woo! Okay, I'll see you later. I'll see you later. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. Afrexim Fest has been slightly delayed. We want to make it just right for you. So it starts at 8:30, New Providence Hall, just around the corner. I've got nothing else to say, really. I've been on this stage for, what, 3 days? You've been with us for 3 days. I guess I can officially say that ends the AAM Global Africa 2024. Thank you so much. The work begins, right?